Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Islip will hold a public hearing on the following applications at the times listed or as soon thereafter as they may be reached. At such time, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard. Application number 126-23, Nikon WS Corp. Permission to establish nonconforming use of takeout restaurant with on-site dining and expansion of outdoor dining area and awning. BD District, south side of Montauk Highway, 383.53 feet west of Sunset Drive, West Salem.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is William Garbarino, 40 Main Street, Sayville, New York, representing the applicant. We're here, as you read in the notice, to establish a non-conforming use for the premises as a restaurant, takeout restaurant. The history of this property is that it was built in 1960. It was CO'd in 1960 as a retail store. That CO was corrected in 2000, I believe, 15, to show that it was a fish store. Before 1976, in a BD zone, a restaurant, mono-restaurant was a permitted use as of right. It was changed earlier in other zones, but it was taken out in September of 1976. So we're here to show that this place was a takeout restaurant, served premises for on-premises and off-premises consumption since it started in the 60s. In that regard, I have brought witnesses here tonight. I have submitted 4 affidavits, and 2 of the people are present to testify that they know this as a fish store that served takeout food, on-premises food, had a window, which is a matter of right, a service window on the east side of the building. It's a matter of right in a BD zone, and it talks about matter of right for a restaurant and a minor restaurant, and same with outdoor seating for eating food outside. I would like at this time to call one of my witnesses here who has experience not only before this board, but with this establishment, Mr. D. Nicola.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Appearing as a witness in case number 1, Eugene L. D. Nicola, 200 Railroad Avenue, Sayville, New York. Mr. Garbarino requested that I testify because in a conversation with him, I told him that I was familiar with this particular location. I moved to Sayville in June of 1966. At that time, with my wife and my daughter, who was 1 year old at the time, and on Friday evenings, I would go to this West Sayville fish market, as they called it, and I would order a fried fish dinner, fried shrimp. We got fried shrimp, French fried potatoes, and coleslaw, and it was easy. It went in. When you went in, I'm sorry. It was $4 or $5 maybe, and something like that. Well, I went all out for my wife on Fridays. So this store or this fish market, you went in. At the time, there was a counter when you walked inside, and behind the counter was, I presume, to be a kitchen, because when you put in your order, there was a woman there, and if my memory serves me correct, she's still alive. She's 103 years old. She was a very short woman, and she's in Good Sam nursing facility, but she worked there for about 60 years. You put in your order, and wait a few minutes, and out came in takeout containers. To the left, there was a pass-through window, not as elaborate as the window that is there today. And on the east side, there are a couple, I call them trestle tables, picnic tables, if you wish, if you will. I did that probably from 1966, June of '66, maybe a little later than that, getting familiar with the area until I moved from Sayville in May of 1976. So for approximately 7 years, we resided in Sayville, and I attended that fish market on many occasions for takeout. I also established my law office in Sayville in 1970, and it's still there since 1970. So that's some 52 years, 53 years I'm practicing in Sayville, and again, familiar with the fish market, not so much for takeout, but for those 10 years when we lived there, we did take out fried fish dinners. If there are any questions, or I'd be pleased to answer them. Yes, Mr. McCarty. Oh, I would say yes, absolutely. It's become a little bit more elaborate, but yes, it's still a fish market, and I assume they still do takeout dinners. Yes. I for personal consumption, yes, that 10 years from 1966, June of 1966 to May of 1976 would be definitely, I attended that location. My personal knowledge of attending that store would be from, again, June of '66 to May of '76. From that period of time would be knowledge through people that I know that have gone there for dinners. Not necessarily personal, because again, I don't live there, but knowing people that have purchased takeout dinners. So from '76 on, or from May of '76 on, it would be through other people. Oh yes, yeah. I probably go by the place 2 or 3, maybe three or 4 times a day, a week. There's really been no substantial change. They put a cover on, but it's still the tables on the east side. It's still a pass-through window. It's still basically the same structure. Uh, on the outside, I mean, if you wanted, I'm going to say at least 3 tables, 18 people, something like that. On the inside, I think there were a couple of tables. They were small. I don't know. They were little 2-seaters. Yeah, it's a little fried fish place, and of course they sold fresh fish as well. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Oh yes, there were tables. Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
absolutely.
You dined there with your wife and 1-year-old daughter.
Maybe no, that was my no. Maybe my wife and I would go there, but that was on site it was only very occasional. Most of the time was takeout.
And as far as the fourth element, Chris answered it.
Yeah, what was the fourth element?
The lot sizes stayed the
Oh,
same.
I'm sorry, it hasn't been subdivided.
Also, I think isn't one of them never in common ownership with the neighbor?
That's the same issue, I
That's
think.
subdivided.
Yeah.
And you get technical.
Trying to trip me up.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't.
No? Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Have a good evening.
You too.
The next witness is Jerry Taylor.
I've lived in Sable all my life. I'm 80
Can you
years
please
old.
state your name and address for the next,
I have-
Mr. Kaler?
Oh. Oh, my name, address is 28 Sable Boulevard, Sable.
And your full name, please?
Kaler, K-A-L-E-R. Okay. The people that own that store originally had the store on South Main Street in Sable. I knew them very well because we used to get the racks when I was a kid at that time. We used to get the racks from Flounder Fillet and use them for crabbing. So we started selling them crabs probably about 1956. I continued a relationship with those people, selling them various kinds of seafood over the years. So when they built the place in West Sable, which was about 1960, I was quite familiar with it. And they put 2 fat fryers in there immediately. And I remember the fellow from Thurber Appliance delivering the gas. But you could get, fish dinners to go. And also steamed crabs and steamed lobsters and that kind of stuff.
Mr. Kaler, did I pronounce it correctly? Kaler?
Huh?
Kaler?
Kaler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you give us approximately how many years that you have personal knowledge that there was dining and takeout? Approximately from when to when? Starting and,
Well, if you count the two picnic tables that they had in the back there, probably almost from the beginning.
what's the beginning of time? When you
Yeah,
closed?
yeah, about 1960,
Okay.
And it's been continuous?
Huh?
It's been continual,
Yep,
nonstop?
As of yesterday?
Huh?
As of present, today, yesterday, it's still going on?
it's still going on as far as I
And
know.
you have knowledge of that?
No, I don't.
When did your knowledge cease, that you had personal knowledge of its continuing existence? Approximately.
I gave up the clamming business in 1973. And we was involved in, after that, I bought a dragger and was in commercial fishing business. So,
What, you're familiar with the business today,
yes,
and it's still operating?
yes.
Do you
As-
take your wife there?
Huh?
Do you take your wife there?
Yeah, yeah. I forgot my hearing aid, so I'm in bad shape here.
Okay.
And,
Do you have any more questions, Mr. Kaler?
I don't.
No? Thank you very much.
Okay, very good.
I believe there's another witness here who wants to address.
My name's Robert Hook,
Address?
281 Kensington Avenue. The year my father married my mother was 1960, and at that time, my father was working for Bayport Lumber. One of his stops was delivering lumber to 20 Main Street, West Sable. The building constructed was to be known as the Village Fish Market. After it was built, I have many great memories of going to the Village Fish Market with my mother, father, and 3 sisters. Even now, the place is known as Claus. It's always a great time and serving a great meal and a great atmosphere. I also familiar with Claus from the standpoint, I've been a commercial fisherman. I was born in 1967. From 1980 till present day, a commercial clammer, and on and off throughout the years, I've sold clams to them. And it's consistently always been a good store.
So what years can you give testimony that you were aware that it was dining and takeout? From when to when, approximately?
I would think 1980 to present.
1980 to present? And continuous and
Yeah, I mean, I've
You
lived in
sold them the
Bayport and Sable.
clams?
I've sold clams on and off there for years.
it hasn't changed?
Well, it
Any-
went from
any
Village Fish
substantial-
Market to Claus, but
I'm sorry?
it went from changed names.
Right, but the structure hasn't
Has not,
grown or
yeah.
changed dramatically or substantially?
No.
Is the menu still the same?
Very similar.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any more questions? No. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Good evening. My name is William DeKroger. I'm a resident of Sayville. I live at 166 Loop Drive. And I'm here, I brought in a signed petition of friends, family, who are endorsing the approval of the application 12623. So I'd like to present that. Personally, my family and I have, since I've been in Sayville since 1995. I'd say probably from around 2000 on, we visited that location. Mostly more with Claus because I had little ones at that point, you know, little kids with fish. But they're used to it now. Now they love it. So it's a great store. It's very convenient. The outdoor entrance is perfect. The tent that they have set up, you know, some couple tables there. It's just very friendly. The food is delicious, and I'm just supporting it with my friends.
So what years are you aware of its continuous operation? Dining and takeout, from when to when? Can you give us a range, please?
Probably from 1996 to present.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions?
None for me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Based on the testimony, I'd just like to add myself to this since I'm a lifelong resident of Sayville. And I go back to this establishment when it was the West Sayville Fish Store to when it opened in the 60s. My parents owned a grocery store in Sayville on Railroad Avenue. Fridays were very busy. But back then in Fridays was the pre-ecumenical council, and you couldn't eat meat on Friday. So my mother would call in an order, drive me up there. I'd run in and pick up the order, and we'd go home and eat it behind the store. So I can testify that I've been there, and in 1960, I was in the 8th grade, and I can testify that it's still a takeout fish place from 1960 to present, to this day as we stand here. Now, based on that, I have nothing else to add.
Mr. Garbarino, I have a question for you.
Sure.
It seems, I mean, there's obviously, I guess every commercial fisherman and clamor has been here. It seems like it's been in continuous operation. It hasn't changed. It's been going on at least for 50, 60 years. Were we to grant the non-conforming use, would anything change?
Not as it basically is today. Nothing would change. We wouldn't be expanding the outdoor use. Or it's what it is. It's there. You know, whether you have 4 tables or 8 tables, it's still in an area, and it's got an awning over it, and you know, that's the way it's been, and that's the way it's been a long time. Yes, things change. Have picnic tables been replaced with other types of tables? Yes, but I can testify that that window, service window on the east side, has always been there, and I can testify that when people bought stuff there, sometimes they bought and they ate outside on the other tables. I can testify that that place has been there since 1960. And that concludes my presentation tonight.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Garbarino? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? Come on up.
My name is Francis Palumbo. I'm not here for this, just
Can you give your
Sorry.
name and address? please?
Francis Palumbo, 3 Yonder Drive in Salem. Well, just coincidentally that this came up, I'm here for another hearing later on, but I can attest to, I've been a life resident of Sable since 1966, large family. Since I was a kid, I don't remember a day it didn't serve fried foods and have the fish market with the window, the seating on the side, just as they explained. But more importantly, that place is one of the places that makes Sable what it is. Gives Sable the charm it has, the reason people come around, and they've done a great job in recent years, say last 15, maybe 20, of keeping it up and improving it.
What
And
time
make
do they
it-
close? You're getting me hungry.
I have no idea, but it's a great place. I've eaten there. My family's gone there. I have 5 kids. We go there, regularly. And a lot of people in town, everybody loves it, speaks highly of it. I've never heard anything negative about it. I was quite surprised to hear this was being brought up tonight, but just to attest to it, and I think it's a great thing to keep improving and have to keep running. So,
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? Come on up, sir.
Hello. My name is John Fish. I live at 125 Bayport Avenue, Bayport,
FISH?
Fish. It really should
Right
be
guy.
my store,
Yeah.
but it's not.
yeah, The right witness. You can't plan this.
First thing to call now the fish
I'm
guy.
not so lucky. I'm on trial. I don't have witnesses. You show
I
up
have
here.
the same fish
I
store at
was
the end
there.
of Bayport Avenue. I should own that one too. I should have a whole
I
slew of fish stores. So I grew up in Sable, and been living in Bayport for like the last 24 years. I support the application. I remember, I can't really attest to, I remember the takeout place when I was a kid. The window on the side. I remember eating there, but I can't tell you timeframes. But I think it's a good place. I've eaten there quite a lot. I don't really have any issue with the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gilwell. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? No? Have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we grant the application. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Application's been granted. Thank you.
Next one also. Application number 127-23, One Spectacular Home LTD. Permission to subdivide lot into 2 parcels. Lot 1, to erect 2-story dwelling on lot having width of 64.57 feet instead of required 75 feet. And Lot 2, to erect 2-story dwelling on lot having width of 64.57 feet instead of required 75 feet. Residence A District, west side of Greenwood Avenue, 240 feet north of Montauk Highway, East Islip.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, William Garbarino, 40 Main Street, Sable, New York, for the applicant. This is a property, presently is a lot of 40,428 square feet, 0.93 acres. It's on the west side of Greenwood Avenue in East Islip, the west side. 240 feet north of Montauk Highway, improved presently by a 1-family dwelling. The plan is to demolish the 1-family dwelling and subdivide this property. This neighborhood, first of all, we want to subdivide into 2 lots. One lot, 20,652 square feet, and the other lot, 19,770 square feet. The reason we're before this board is for one reason: width of lot. We have width of lot throughout 64.57 feet and 64.72 feet. Most of the lots on this avenue, on this street, are substandard. They vary from 60 to 65 to 64 foot frontage. We're not asking for any other variance except width of lot. We have sufficient area. We're going to have almost half-acre zoning in an area that's a zone. So we're not going to create a lot of building there. We're going to be 50% of what's allowed, and we're not seeking any variances. In this regard, within 200 feet, there have been applications. In fact, there was an application before this board in 2003, which was two houses away. Tax lots, parcel 1 was divided into 2 parcels. Now it's known as 45.1 and 45.2 on the tax lot. It was granted, and they were asking for erect a 2-story dwelling on lot having a width of 65.06 feet instead of the required 75, and also asking to, on the other lot, 65.06 feet instead of the required 75. That was granted by this board, and there have been other grants in the area for improvements within 200 feet, Division Avenue to the west. They allowed a 50-foot lot to be a house constructed on it, and it was granted by this board. And if you look at the street, you can see that the majority of these lots are 60 foot in width. I'll accept any questions at that time. If you want me to give you the cases that I've referred to, from the Board of Appeals, I can.
I believe we have.
You have them already. Okay.
Any
thank you.
questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Garbarino, I'm just looking at the map.
Let me walk over here and see what you're looking
Yeah, please. Okay. I'm looking at all of those parcels north. They're all in a row. What, those look like 60s, and these are going to be 61, 64? Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this application?
Yeah.
Oh, come on up.
Good evening. Anthony Pagano, 73 East Main Street, East Islip.
You don't go to the fish store, do you?
No, no. Pagano. Okay. I have no objection. Just one question as far as the property, how it's getting divided, split down the middle?
Yes.
Okay. Because the north end of my property backs up to that whole piece.
for. We split down the middle.
Okay.
The lot to the south has a little, if you look, there's a little jut out, so that square footage is like 5. This, but other than that, it's just right down the middle, not concerned. Not quite that lot, it's 20,000 square feet.
Do you have any questions?
Well, does he have? That case is. Sir, do you have anything else you want to say? Okay, does anyone have any questions for him? No. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? No? Mr. Garbarino, do you have anything else?
I have nothing to add.
Take a motion on it?
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
We don't do 3 in a row, so. Yeah,
Application number 128-23, Gabriella Sid and John Bigglestaller. Permission to leave driveway and patio on side property lines not having required setback of 4 feet each. Residence AAA District, west side of West Lane at the intersection of Okanee Walk, Bayshore.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Pfluger, Fuller Pfluger Architects at 85 East Main Street, Bayshore, New York, 11706. As mentioned, we're here tonight for a existing driveway that's on the side property line that's to the north on the property. The driveway seems to have been there in this location for at least 30 years, possibly more, as I have a survey, an old survey from 1991 that shows the driveway in the same approximate location that I can hand to the board if you like. Also, there's heavy vegetation to the north between the neighbor and the driveway. And we also have a letter of no objection from that neighbor to the north at 72 West Lane that I can submit to the board. With that, I could take any questions from the board.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this application? No? Please state your- Take a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. So your motion's been granted, application's been granted, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Application number 129-23, Thomas and Laura McGuire. Permission to leave pool patio having side yard of 4 feet instead of required 6 feet, and pond having side yard of 2 feet and rear yard of 3 feet instead of required 4 feet each. Residence A District, south side of Loop Drive, 390.19 feet east of Wyandanch Avenue, Sayville.
Thomas McGuire, 205 Loop Drive, Sayville. When I purchased the house in 2011, the pond was existing, so its location I didn't choose. The pool patio being installed, I guess it's an issue on my part. The pool company, installed the pool, gave me a recommendation on who to use for pavers. I was understanding that they knew the codes. The guy just made a suggestion on how big the patio should be. It looks like it's 2 feet too big. I'm kind of stuck.
Well, we're unstuck.
Appreciate it.
Do you have any questions for Mr. McGuire? No. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? No? Take a motion. All in favor? Aye. Your application's been granted.
Application number 130-23, Robert and Regina Tyler. Permission to leave pool patio on side property lines and having rear yard of 3.3 feet instead of required 6 feet each. Gazebo having side yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 2 feet. And driveway and patio having side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, east side of Penny Street, 300 feet north of Altmar Avenue, West Islip.
Hi, I'm Robert Tyler from 65 Penny Street.
Regina Tyler, 65 Penn Street.
Kind of the same boat as the other guy. We listened to some people about how to do LEBR for pavers, and we're too close to the fence line and some other things, so we're kind of stuck as well.
Any questions? Yeah. Take a motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Application's granted. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Application number 131-23, Jancy Anthony and Anthony Joseph. Permission to erect second-story addition 10 by 18.9, leaving floor area ratio of 26.72% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, east side of Lewis Cassuth Avenue, 100 feet south of 5th Street, Ronkonkoma.
Good evening. My name is John Gleason, architect. I'm here to represent the applicants at 336 6th Avenue, St. James. Mr. and Mrs. Joseph, they want to put on a second floor addition, 189 square feet. Underneath this addition will be an open area. That's put us over the FAR by 1.72%.
You're just squaring it off?
We're keeping it in the volume of the house, correct, yes. We're not, no setback variances. If I think they don't count the underneath part, the open space, then I would be at 25%.
Any other questions? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? Take a
Make a
motion.
motion to approve the application.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Application number 132, dash 23, Scott Forget. Permission to alter attached garage roof line, leaving side yard of 7.2 feet instead of required 14 feet, and total side yards of 26.3 feet instead of required 28 feet. Residence B District, east side of Ocean Avenue, 75.027 feet north of Warowak Street, Islip.
Hey, good evening. My name is James from Unique Builders. I'm the contractor for this project. He has an existing flat roof over his garage, and we're looking to make it a pitched roof.
Is it, the garage as it's situated, is it legal? Is it CO for it?
Yeah, so the survey we have is from 1963, and we're not changing the footprint. We just want to make it from a flat roof to a pitched roof.
You want to make it look nice?
Well, safer too. A lot of snow piles on it.
You have any other questions? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application? I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is granted. Thank you very much. Application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 133-23, Sharon Carpenter. Permission to erect deck 10 by 10, leaving rear yard of 11.9 feet instead of required 25 feet. Residence B District, northeast corner of Newton Street and Macon Avenue, Sayville.
Francis Palumbo, 3 Yonder Drive, Sable, New York. I'm a contractor. She's just looking to put up, as simple as it sounds, that deck. She had something there that was in violation. She removed it conforming and would like to replace it now with a permit.
How high is the deck?
It's less than 4 feet off the ground, so it will require railing. And there'll be a small set of stairs that goes to the existing walkway.
And you're going to build it? Okay, we're holding you to it. So when it comes in and it's too large, you can't blame the builder.
No problem.
Any other questions for Mr. Palumbo? No? Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? No? I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good night.
Application number 134-23, Kristen and Pasquale Romeo. Permission to erect second-story addition, leaving front yard of 18.7 feet instead of required 25 feet, side yard of 10.6 feet instead of required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 28.7% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, north side of Independence Avenue, 148.74 feet east of Higby Lane, West Islip.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Romeo, 314 Independence Avenue, West Islip. My name's spelled right on a few of the papers and then just Kristen on one of the others. So,
I think it's only wrong on the agenda. I'm Pasquale Romeo. I live at 314 Independence Avenue, West Islip.
What are you going, straight up?
Yeah, well, just on one half. We just want to add 2 bedrooms. We have 3 kids, and our 3-year-old's still in our bedroom, and our 2 boys are sharing the other bedroom. We can all go out for fish after. We have some signed letters from all our immediate neighbors.
You want to pass those up, please?
Sure.
There you can give.
One of them has a Spider-Man drawn on it. Sorry.
Any other questions? I don't. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on this application? Take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 135-23, Noreen and Michael Connolly. Permission to leave in-ground pool having rear yard of 9.3 feet instead of required 10 feet. Pool patio having rear yard of 0.2 feet instead of required 6 feet. Shed having side yard of 1.7 feet and rear yard of 0.6 feet instead of required 2 feet each. And rear yard landscaping of 29.1% instead of permitted 40%. Residence B District, west side of Wildwood Court, 100 feet north of Brushwood Court, East Islip.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Len Crick, Island-wide Permit Services, office at 86 Center Street in Ronkonkoma, representing the owners, the Connollys. C-R-I-C-K. The Connollys had their pool installed in 2008 after receiving a permit from the town. The pool passed its inspection, but the CO was not issued because their shed was too close to the rear and side property lines. And fast forward 15 years later, now the property is listed for sale, so we have to finish legalizing the pool. Unfortunately, the final survey does show that the contractor misjudged the angle of the rear property line and ended up situating the pool so that the northwest corner falls about 8 to 9 inches short of the required 10-foot setback. The pool patio, as shown in submitted photos, is made up of unobtrusive pavers laid at grade. Photos also show the shed, which is 100 square feet, 8 feet high. It's tucked away in a very well-screened corner of the yard, barely visible to neighboring properties. And the landscaping is pretty much the same as when the Connollys bought the property 25 years ago. The rear yard was basically just very short grass with no shrubs or trees. Any questions?
No? Any questions? No? Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? No?
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Aye. Aye, application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Application number 136-23, Ilya Landsberg. Permission to leave hot tub having side yard of 12.1 feet instead of required 18 feet. Residence AA District, east side of Eaton Lane, 800.3 feet north of Magoon Road, West Islip.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Ilya Landsberg, and I'm representing property on 71 Eaton Lane. The issue with hot tub was such that when I bought the property, I'm sorry, I bought the property in 2015, and at that time there was a pavement and the hot tub. Payment for the hot tub that was already there, and the electrical setup was already there. So I purchased the hot tub on Craigslist, which was, a cheap thing. It was $600, and I was not aware of any additional legalization that was required. The hot tub is not visible from any neighboring property, if the letter is needed from the neighbor to make sure that he doesn't mind, that it will be obtained. We don't have anything else. I've provided photographs of the hot tub and the pavement that it sits on.
Any questions for Mr. Landsberg? Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Thank you
All in
very
favor?
much.
Aye. Aye, application is granted. Thank you.
I'm just going to get a little microphone test here. Thank you, tester. Yeah.
Sing the national anthem, Joe.
Yeah, no.
It's dying.
Thank you.
Hey, what time does that fish place close? Yeah, that's
The
what he
lobster roll is unbelievable.
what he said.
Application number 137-23, Glenn and Maureen Putman. Permission to erect one-story addition, 11 by 13.6, leaving side yard of 7.44 feet instead of required 10 feet. To leave decking having side yard of 0.1 feet instead of required 5 feet. Decking with outdoor shower and barbecue having second front yard of 7.5 feet and rear yard of 2.2 feet instead of required 15 feet each. Attached accessory structures having side yard of 0.3 feet and rear yard of 3.1 feet instead of required 10 feet each, and pergolas having second front yard of 14.34 feet instead of required 20 feet each. Residence BAA District, southwest corner of Sloop Walk and Central Roadway, Summer Club.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jamie Winkler, 474 Montauk Highway, West Islip. I'm here with the architect, John Bracco.
John Bracco, 111 Railroad Avenue, Sayville. I won't say anything about the fish place.
I am here to represent the clients. They are seeking to build a 152 square foot extension to their master bedroom. They purchased this home in 2006. It was at that time comprised of a whole lot of 700 square feet. And even though it was so small, they fell in love with it because it was a famous architect who built it. And it had beautiful landscaping and pergolas. So we are seeking to expand the master bedroom just by a small amount because now that they are older, the pandemic has passed, they are now spending more and more time at the Fire Island house. We're also seeking to legalize everything that already existed when they purchased the house in 2006. If you look at the CO, it was inspected as recently as 2004, and none of the items that we are seeking to legalize now, such as insufficient side yard and rear yard setbacks for decks and a storage shed and a barbecue, they were all existing when the Putnams bought the house, but they just were never legalized before they purchased it.
Ms. Winkler, is it up or down? I don't know. I guess it'd be north or south where they're expanding.
Oh, they're expanding south, right, south. Their master bedroom is in the south portion of the house.
And they want to leave 7.4 instead of 10.
Correct.
What does the area hold as far as variance?
Summer Club is a condominium association. It is comprised of 45 homes. None of the homes can be smaller than on a 60 by 100 lot. Many are 90 by 100 or 120 by 100. And about 85% have been granted excess FAR and side and rear yard setbacks.
How many hold 7.5 foot?
Good question. You know, please.
Yeah, I did do a little research, and basically there was a grant by the board, case number 798-19 in 2019 for a 5-foot side yard setback where 10 feet was also required.
What would this I mean, that's not something we would, I mean, I know this is Fire Island.
BAA.
But BA.
Yeah, I can tell you it's on the same street, on the other side of the street, just a little north of this property. It was, I have that grant, I could give it to you.
No, I mean, is there a right of way? Is there a utility easement? Is there something that we grant this?
I don't believe so, no, not according to the grant.
How many square feet is the addition going to be? Or how many feet laterally is it going to be?
Yeah, it encroaches into the setback 39 square feet. In the prior grant, it talked about that 96 square feet encroached into the setback.
You have even a stronger case than that.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak on this application? Take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Aye. Application is granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. I thought she dropped it. Well, I'm not sure. It was very confusing. It worked in my favor. Application number 138-23, Andrea Arojo Guisado de Ortiz, permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, having lot width of 70 feet instead of required 75 feet throughout. Residence B District, southeast corner of Ferndale Boulevard and Sunrise Highway, Islip.
Hi.
Please state your name and address for the stenographer, please.
Hi. My name is Andrea Araujo. My address 137 Fender Boulevard.
Thank
you. I'm sorry, I try to explain. I'm not speaking too much English. So my application is for accessory in the basement. When I bought my house, yeah, everything is ready. So last year, I sent application again for approve the porch and the other, the driveway too, but no applying the accessory in the basement. Pero I don't know.
Here, just one.
Good eye.
A couple more tricky
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments?
Is everything in order regarding documents required to be submitted?
Yes, everything is in order with regarding the accessory apartment. It's less than 800 square feet, and let me check the driveway review. We have approved already that driveway to be in front of that house, and the board's decision on that driveway was because it was such a difficult location that additional surface area was required for the applicant to safely get out in front of their house. Yeah, engineering actually approved the driveway. October 28th of 2022, the driveway was approved by engineering. So typically, the board doesn't see very many width of lot relaxations for accessory apartments, and as Deirdre said, this is because of the corner radius dedication when Sunrise Highway got widened into a limited access highway.
Anybody else like to speak on this application? No? Take a motion.
Make a motion that we grant the application for
All in favor? Aye. Application's been granted. Thank you very much.
It's approved. Thank you. Thank you.
Application number 139-23, William Brady and Kelly Fitzsimmons. Permission to elevate dwelling leaving front yard of 19.4 feet instead of required 40 feet. Side yards of 1 foot and 7.7 feet instead of required 14 feet each. Total side yards of 8.7 feet instead of required 28 feet. To reconstruct driveway leaving side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet. And to leave incline slope of 15% instead of permitted 8%. And to exceed compensating excavation provision 68-442A3C by proposing 120 cubic yards of surplus fill into the floodplain. Residence A District, west side of Shore Drive, approximately 160 feet south of the westerly terminus of Ocean View Avenue, Oakdale.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is William Brady. My wife and I purchased this home the end of last year. And we're requesting permission to lift it from the finished floor from elevation 4.9 to elevation 9. Really just in an effort to safeguard the home from future flood events. What we're going to propose is going to be all new engineered or engineered foundations in order to accomplish the house lift in accordance with the residential code in New York State. I've been informed by the town planning department that the roadway and bulkhead are lawfully pre-existing, having been constructed prior to 1977. So we don't need any DEC approvals for this work. And just to note that the existing non-conforming nature of the design is because the home was built in 1923 prior to the adoption of the zoning code. So really what we're looking for permission to do is leave the home exactly how it is and just lift it. Yes. I'm looking to raise it 4.9 feet
Okay, so it's
I'm sorry,
5
yes,
feet higher when it's 1 foot.
right. I mean, the house, predates the zoning code. It's.
That's why you can stay there, but that
It's
doesn't give
unfortunate.
you, obviously, the right, that's why you're here, to
Right.
raise it. I just, at 1 foot, it's problematic for me.
I mean, I understand, of course, permissible, having, I guess the crux of the whole thing is that it's permissible to leave it in the condition that it's in, and it would be subject to future flooding. I'm really just looking to safeguard.
No,
the
I
structure.
understand
Right.
that. Do you know, are there any other homes that have 1 foot from the property line that we've allowed to raise, or can you have any research on that? We're always concerned about the neighbors, that now they're looking at a wall of house.
Yeah, the neighbor to the side of us, Kathy, has no objection. I've spoken to her about it. Her and her son have been very, very much amenable to it. They're actually looking forward. They're very nice people, and they're looking forward to my family moving in next door. So, understandably, I get that could be a concern, but
To
in
be
this,
honest, I'm a little bit more concerned about the other side yard, even though it's 7.7 feet. I can go back, would you?
so the house.
The side with the 1 foot side yard, it's adjoining or adjacent to a fairly large sized lot. The house, the neighbor's house, I guess that's to the north, pretty far set back. But the house to the south, you're right on top of them, you're going to be looking down on. But then again, it doesn't look like you're going to be looking down onto their backyard. I don't really actually see much of an invasion of privacy unless, your bedroom windows are now staring at each other.
So with regards to what you said before, South, they actually have their home lifted. So I'm actually experiencing a similar situation, but it doesn't really have any ill effect. Their house is lifted, and they are the similar distance to the property line. And
Do we know what their setback is from the common property line? It looks like it's awfully close. I
it
mean,
is awfully close. I would
Is it
say-
like a foot or two?
No, it's not that close. It's about the same distance, if not closer to the property line.
They have a variance?
My understanding is that they lifted the home during the executive order, back during the superstorm, which, a lot of people were able to safeguard their homes during that time. And, that's really all my wife are looking to accomplish here. We don't believe that lifting the home will result in any negative impacts to the character of the neighborhood or to the neighbors. They haven't expressed any concerns, just with conversations that I've had with them. Like I said, the home was constructed in 1923. It predates the code. It's unfortunate that I wish I had another few feet on that side of the property. But this is unfortunately the nature of this particular site.
What is the lot size? I can almost figure it out.
Yeah.
It's 60 by about 100.
I have it. The exact lot size is 9,853 square feet. So the floor ratio is actually acceptable. We're underneath the 25%.
What percent?
We're underneath 25% based on the current footprint of the home.
On the north side, that's a garage?
That's the garage.
Is it possible to leave that at the grade and raise the rest of the house?
I mean, it would be tricky from a structural standpoint, and then the finished floor elevation in the garage would be, really subject to flooding. And I would like to raise the garage with the home as they are attached. It would, and again, I would like to bring the garage elevation up so that in the event of a flood, the garage doesn't get full of water. I'd like it to be lifted together.
Is the house going to be identical, just raised?
That's correct. I'm literally leaving the home exactly the way it is and just lifting it up.
It's like you have an outhouse. I mean, outhouse was built a long time ago.
That must have been during the construction activity. This was probably February of 2013. So they were probably doing some restoration after the superstorm in that image.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're interested in keeping the home as is. We love, actually the architectural style of it. I am an architect as well, so I'm familiar with these things. I think that's what drew me to the property, drew my wife and I to buying this home.
How high are you looking to raise it, Mr. Brady?
So the current elevation of the finished floor is 4.9 feet, and the proposed elevation would be 9, which would be in accordance with the town of Islip. It would be the 2 feet plus the 2 feet design flood elevation would get us to 9 would be the appropriate height to
You're
safeguard
going
this.
up 4.1 feet.
Correct.
So is that why the driveway slope is almost double what's the maximum slope? It's because you need to go up 4 feet in such a short distance?
Yes, that's correct. It's a common occurrence on Shore Drive. For some reason, a lot of these homes are very close to the street. If you drive down Shore Drive, they're almost all like 20 feet or so from the street line. And a lot of the properties do not meet the side yard setbacks. Like my neighbor, for example. My neighbor to the north is an anomaly because she has a massive lot, but a lot of the other properties don't conform with the side yard setbacks as required. But yeah, the driveway slope, to answer your question, is a function of the fact that the homes will need to be lifted, and there are other homes in that area that have similar driveway designs to accommodate the homes being lifted or built.
So then, if the driveway's going 4 feet in the air by the time it gets to the garage door, doesn't it need a retaining wall alongside it?
Yes, I have that spelled out on the site plan. I haven't worked any of those details out with engineering yet. But the plan is to obviously engineering approval.
Would you need a variance for that?
Yeah, well, you would. If at any point the top of the wall is over 18 inches from the bottom of the wall, you need a 4-foot setback.
May not be finished with us.
I hope I am.
I don't blame you.
I was saying that because we were anxious to get started. We sold our home and we were working with the
But
building
if it's,
department. I'm sorry.
if it's, what is it, closer than 4 feet to the property?
Well, it looks like it.
You're going to need a variance because you're raising it 4 feet.
I'm not sure. When Cassandra wrote up this letter, I didn't realize that she didn't include that was necessary. Is it possible that we can include that in this application?
I don't think so because it wasn't noticed.
What was it like
That
particular need for relief.
Let me think about this for a second. So the driveway grade would be approximately. It would be about, let's see. Is there any way that we can obtain a conditional approval for the lift, just so that I can continue working with the building department to at least?
Well, I think we can potentially grant what's in the call the calendar. Doesn't have to be, we can potentially grant what's in the call the calendar. It doesn't have to be conditional.
Okay.
And then what other variances you may need or
Oh,
not
okay.
need, that's a separate, but
Understood.
we can certainly go forward.
So I would need to obtain. Yeah, I actually have it spelled out. I say retaining wall to follow slope of a long driveway. So the issue is that I would need a variance for that retaining wall because of the height or because of the distance.
How high
from
is the retaining wall going to be?
It would be approximately, if we have the garage at about.
Isn't it going to be about 4 feet?
No, it would be, no, because the grade in that area is approximately 3.5 feet, and then the top of the driveway is about 6 feet, so it could be about 30 inches high.
He means one is above sea level, and one is.
So why don't we do this? If we're so inclined to grant this, we can make it conditional on engineering approval.
They can't give the zoning. They can't give the zoning.
They can't give them.
So it looks like, it looks like
And
you,
then the engineering, when they will do whatever they have to do, they'll obviously have to send it back.
Right. So why don't we address what's on the the calendar tonight?
Okay.
And then you'll use your architectural wonders to see if you can get out and speak to building and planning and all those departments.
Is there any benefit to me with the fact that the garage and the home is pre-existing and the driveway is essentially pre-existing as well? Is the just so I fully understand, is the issue that it's the driveway setback or the new retaining wall?
both,
Okay.
because the retaining wall, you're proposing it inches from your neighbor's property, right?
It would be, yes, about that foot away. That's right.
So why don't we address what's on for tonight?
Okay.
And then
Thank you.
You can take it.
give him what he needs and start building.
Yeah.
So typically that level of review with grading is done at engineering, not in zoning. And that's what you're saying, that you showed it to Cassandra and she didn't see it. Typically that would be an engineering review item.
So engineering would note that as an engineering variance?
They would have noted that you needed wall setback, yeah, because engineering is more accustomed to dealing with compensating excavation. In other words, you're bringing fill into the site, you're
Sure.
elevating your driveway.
Yeah.
Engineering would be more accustomed
That's
to the
fair.
elevation of the property.
I recently reached out to Tanner Gonzalez to set up a meeting with him to review the engineering of the entire process and the whole entire design process. So we'll surely address that.
Yes,
as
Tanner
we-
may
as we
well
move
come up
forward.
with one or two other items that might have you back before us, but at least you can get the review underway.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think let's do this. Get this out of the way so we can start building.
All right. So anyone else would like to speak to us about this application? No. Take a motion?
Motion to grant the application.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the application is granted as is. That's the call of the meeting tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Have a nice evening.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Application number 140-23, Charles Taylor. Permission to erect detached garage 20 by 24.5, leaving side yard of 2 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, east side of North Thompson Drive, 672.7 feet south of Pine Air Drive, Bay Shore.
Hi, Charles Taylor, homeowner of 1733 North Thompson Drive, Bay Shore. Yes, I would like to build a garage, and I'm looking to get 20 feet wide, but I have trees parallel to the garage, which will prevent me from getting to 20 feet. So I'm requesting 2 feet instead of the required 4 feet from the fence. The trees, my son and I planted those trees years ago, and they're beautiful, and I just can't touch them. So my only option is
Can you speak into the microphone? I'm sorry, I'm having a problem hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, my son and I planted those trees years ago, so my only option is to request 2 feet from you to get what I'm trying to get 20 feet for the garage in width.
So you're about 50 feet over, what is it? We allow, how many square feet?
Well, no, he's actually perilously close to the 10-foot side yard requirement.
Because
But he's not, so.
Not until he puts the siding on it. And the surveyor does an as-built, and it comes back at like 530 square feet, as we've seen before.
Let me just say something. I'm speaking for myself. I don't think 450 feet is earth-shaking. I think we have prior approvals for that. But that's 450 feet. When you put the siding on it, it's going to grow beyond 450 feet. It's going to grow to, let's say, 550
It's
feet.
490, the way it's proposed.
Right now it's 490. Right, 490. So the siding makes it exponentially larger.
I understand.
And you're going to go beyond what we've granted. That's my only
So
concern.
if you hit correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, if you hit 500 or 500.1 square feet, or you go from needing a 4-foot setback to a 10-foot setback.
Yeah, no.
That's a
So-
cutoff.
Yeah, right. So there's a cutoff. If you're under 500 square feet, you can build 4 feet from the property line. If you're over 500 square feet, you have to comply with a 10-foot setback.
And I'm,
Which by right now, you're at 490 square feet. But the way that they measure it is going to include the siding. So once you put the siding on, it's gonna grow, I don't know, what, 30, 40 square feet? So I would suggest, if it's possible, that you trim the size of this down a little bit, especially because it's not already built. So
Yes.
It's not like you have to take down a wall and move it 6 inches or whatever it works out to be.
Yeah.
I would
I could
advise-
trim them back.
I would advise you
I
to
could
trim a
them
little
back.
bit. It doesn't
Yeah, I
matter
could do
from
that.
where, but I would
Yeah.
advise that you do.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that.
Also, what you're seeking.
And I have a little bit more room to play. I was just leaving a little bit
Right.
of space between the trees.
What you're
Yes.
seeking now is the reduction is not that much, from 4 to 2. If it goes over 500, it then becomes 10 feet. Then you're asking, I want a relaxation from 10 to 2. That's a big, so we're just saying you may want to make it a little smaller, and you may
So
want
from
to.
outs, so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So from outside to outside is 20.
Right.
Exact.
Right,
I
right,
can,
right.
I can pull that off in that space, no problem.
You may want to go speak to.
If you give me but you're saying that's what allowing me the 2 feet.
Yeah.
We'll allow
Okay.
you the 2 feet,
Yes,
but you
yes,
should
yes.
reduce the size of the
Right.
garage.
Yes,
And if
yes.
you want to know and get an idea how much to reduce it, you may want to call planning. Deidre is the young lady smiling,
Thank you.
and she does this all day long.
Yes.
God bless her.
That's all she does.
That's all she does. Bless her little soul. No, but you may want to say, where do you think so you can get the maximum without going over?
And you may also want to consider having your architect call instead. So he's going to know more of the specs as far as the siding and what it's going to end up being.
Yes. So when I present the final plans, this is not the approval of the plans now anyway. I have to be submitting for the permit. Am I correct?
You have to go back for a building permit. But it will be the last time you have to come here.
Yeah,
Unless
yes,
you
yes.
get over that 500 square foot marker,
Yeah.
then they'd see it and they'd kick you back right here.
Yeah, there would be enough room to make that, definitely.
I would just advise that you have your architect's office call Deirdre and
100%.
go over, the exact numbers.
Yes.
It's going to
yes.
grow.
It's going to grow.
Yes, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. I didn't even think about that. I understand exactly what you're saying. And thank you.
We're here to please.
So,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Taylor, would you be opposed to us eliminating the dimensions of the garage on the call of the meeting tonight? And we'll approve it so that it's a setback of 2 instead of the required 4 feet, with the understanding that you're going to keep it under 500 square feet. So when it's finally built, they're going to come out and inspect it, and it's going to be under 500 square feet, and therefore you'll be approved.
Yes, sir.
All right?
It could be 499. That's fine.
I understand.
And if you want, we can have Mr.
Yeah, I'll come out and measure it.
But I'm going to talk to Deidre,
Yep.
and I'll be right on.
Deidre.
And I'll be right on. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so can we amend the call of the
Yeah,
meeting?
motion to amend the call of the meeting to remove the dimensions of the detached garage.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, so the call's been amended, and an application.
Motion to
Motion
approve
to
the
approve.
application, with the understanding that this application is only approved provided that the size of the detached garage remains under 500 square feet.
Second.
As built.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Application's been granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Oh, it's wetlands. These are always.
Application number 141-23,
Who's gonna
Jennifer
do this?
Specchio. Permission to erect dwelling on lot having wetlands yield of 0.6954 instead of required 1, on lot having effective lot area of 28,825 square feet instead of required 40,000 square feet, leaving total side yards of 51 instead of required 60, leaving height of 41 feet instead of required 35 feet, floor area ratio of 35.5% instead of permitted 25%, to install driveway leaving front yard occupancy of 44% instead of permitted 35%. Residence AAA District 278 cluster, south side of the Helm, 1,408.99 feet southeast of the Moore, East Islip.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board's community. My name is David Bush, registered architect. My office is located at 90 West Main Street, Bay Shore. I'm here on behalf of the homeowners, Michael and Jennifer Specchio. The application is cited as number 141-23. It's relative to a property whose street address is 159 The Helm, East Islip. This lot is part of an original subdivision, the Moorings, created in November of 1964 and filed in February of 1965. In 1974, the lot was improved with ranch-style residence, which still occupies the lot and has since had limited improvements. This proposed application is for a new two-story residence on the lot to accommodate a family of 5, some garage space, and an open living plan. Within the application package submitted to the board, there's 5 drawings, which I'll walk you through, as well as a DEC notice of approval. that's
Mr. Bush,
dated-
let me just interrupt you so we
Please.
can kind of go right to the heart of the matter.
Please.
You're seeking an FAR of 35.5 instead of 25.
Yes.
Okay. I love precedent. What, I have a bumper sticker.
What's that?
I have a bumper sticker.
I love precedence.
Yeah, it has a
Yes.
heart.
Obviously, he's the life of the party where.
Yeah.
Yes, no, and-
Okay. Tell me what, I know we know this area pretty well.
Mhm.
I think most of the homes are conforming, the large majority. What type of precedent do you have that we've granted 35.5? Additionally, the intrusion into the wetlands, everybody's going to want it if we grant it. What do you say to that? A, about precedent, and B, how do we not set up a paradigm that everybody's going to want the same? Then what's the point of having wetlands and DEC regulations?
Right.
So why don't we
So-
start, if you don't mind, with number 1 with precedent at 35.5?
Okay. I'd like to address the DEC, right, the wetlands.
You won't address the precedent
No,
first?
I will follow up the precedent. And I think the point being with the DEC, Town of Islip wetlands, and the 100-foot buffer, which you're speaking to from the bulkhead line, the Town of Islip, and this has been verified, seeks definition with new applications by DEC. So the application that you see in front of you, the exact footprint of the residence, decking, everything else, square footage of the residence has been approved by the DEC. So the positioning to wetlands, setbacks, rear yard setbacks, et cetera, is DEC compliant. There's a permit in place that was issued.
Okay, I
Right.
understand why you wanted to lead with that.
Yes.
Do the other homes looking right along the line there on whatever that, I can't read the name of the street. For the record, what's the Helm?
The Helm.
Okay, the Helm, that's right. How many of those have an intrusion into the wetlands at 35.5? Because to me, that's the critical issue, because if we grant this application, every single person is going to want the same thing.
Appreciate that. I think there's a couple of things relative to FAR.
Oh, you're going to get the precedent. You promised me that was number
Yes.
2.
Yes.
Bring it on.
I don't have a precedent at the requested variance.
Okay.
Do you have anything close?
I have, I'd ask Deidre to speak to some of the prior precedent in the neighborhood, and I can review with you some of the things that I found as well.
Do you have
I-
grants by this board?
I have grants by this board for percentages of variance within this area.
And
Right.
what's the FAR we have previously granted? I just don't think we have 35.5. I'll stand corrected. I'm sure you will if you have it.
We have I have one precedent that's at 26.72%.
Wait, 26.72.
72.
I think I was on the board when we granted that. And that was, I think it was I didn't love the decision, but that was probably 10 years ago.
2017.
Okay, so I'm off, all right. And so that's 26. How do you call that precedent? If you
Well-
wanted 26.72, that would be precedent.
Right.
How is 26.72 precedent for 35.5?
Right. There's a couple of things that go into the calculation, and I appreciate the long reach. One of the things is the calculation of lot area, and this has to do with the subdivision land regulations. And again, there's an existing house on the lot that's improved.
Just out of curiosity, what's the FAR in the existing house?
I apologize, I don't have that in front of me.
I think they're all about 25%. I think they're all right in there. We granted this one.
It's probably about 15%.
Yeah, they're all 1 acre.
The existing lot, when we look at the lot width, is lots required. The minimum here in AAA is 150-foot lot width. This lot is 150 foot at the front line, street, and it's 150 plus at the rear or the bay side. So one of the things in calculating lot area has to do with the total area when we look at the subdivision land regulations, in which it recognizes there's a diagram which recognizes an irregular shaped lot.
But everybody's got an irregular shaped lot.
No, and I do appreciate that. But I think what's particular about this is the two side lines. If we look at the regulation, it talks about the sidelines. So if we look at the property, this is regular. This is 150-foot regular, right? At the bottom of the property.
Mr. Bush, I think you're gonna have to sharpen your pencil. a little bit
Yeah,
on this one.
I think we're all kind of looking at it and saying, we can't grant 35.5. And it's not as though there's something that is so unique. They're all the same. They're all.
And you've got a house on there in compliance.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I would like to clarify, and that was the point, so when I go back and I look at percentages, is the configuration of the lot relative to the actual subdivision land regulation. And the point being, this is a 150-foot parallel lot. The diagrams which I was going to offer, a little piece of the code, right? And diagrams of properties, one of which you referred to, which are completely irregular.
But when you say irregular,
You'll see by that.
is the irregularity the bulkheading that juts?
It's actually, you'll see by the diagram, there's several configurations. There's
So-
pizza pie shaped properties. There's ones that are trapezoidal. There's an L configuration. And
Correct
then
me
it
if
has,
I'm wrong, but and we've come across this issue before, where there's a piece of maybe I'm reading this wrong, there's a piece of the lot that is excluded or omitted from the FAR calculation, right?
correct.
But where we've come across this issue and it's presented as true topic of discussion is when that omitted portion would bring the property into either in compliance or within a precedent. In this case, it seems that if you were to include the omitted portion of land, it would bring you down to 33.89%. Am I right?
Correct, and
which
that's-
is still far above.
And I appreciate that. I do respect that. And I think what I'm trying to get at is just recognizing land area by definition is the way we've been asked to measure the site is with this regulation, which is about 150-foot minimum requirement, parallel lot lines, we're omitting. I think it's a misinterpretation. This zoning piece, this regulation is about a subdivision. If I was going to take a 2-acre property and subdivide it, it's a matter of how I subdivide it, what shape I subdivide that in, and I maintain lot widths.
I'm just not following you.
Well,
What is the irregularity? I'm looking at, you said wait until you get the handout. So I waited patiently, or not so patiently. And I see the yellow is the subject property.
Correct.
Yes.
And the one next to it, and I see they're both 150 feet across. They both look like oversized postage stamps. Maybe in France they look like that. And then I see your client has a little angled sliver there, and the one next to it's a little larger. So just tell me, as it relates to the property next door, what is the irregularity that vexes your client?
So I'd ask you just look at this sheet, which is in the record. It's sheet
Oh, now I have to go back to
SK-1.
this sheet. You told me to wait to this one.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's build the suspense.
Yeah, right.
Right.
What is the irregularity? I mean,
The irregularity is the triangle at the bottom, which they're considering an irregularity, which by definition of the code, because it has a 150-foot lot width throughout, is truly not an irregularity.
But even with that
So-
irregular,
Yeah.
you're at
And
33.89%.
I respect that very much. I think what I'm trying to get at is what percentage when I reflect back on things, I want to clarify the land area that I would use for the calculation. That's
If I were you, I'd aim for 26.72%.
excuse me?
If I were you, I would aim for 26.72%. If you need to go above that, have a good reason, good justification. I think, Mr. Vitaleano, that we
Yeah.
should ask Deirdre for her input on this.
Yes, Theodore, you have it?
Agreed.
but not in, right, but not, we don't do the 30% in the moorings because, let me just ask you, what is the proposed square footage of the home? I mean, these are very large pieces of property.
Mm-hmm.
What is the square footage? I mean, you can build a very nice home and come in at 25%.
Right.
What is the square footage?
The living space of the residence is approximately 8,200 square feet.
How much?
8,200 square feet.
Right, say no more. You got to sharpen your pencil.
Also, if I were you, I'd pay a little bit more attention to the front yard occupancy.
Which is another part of the call, which I did want to review.
Can I follow up on the sage advice of Mr. Nicolia? Come in at 26.7%.
Or a very good reason, other than you disagree with the interpretation.
I mean, how do we grant?
Which, by the way, I grant you, that's a very novel argument, and I appreciate it, but.
How do we grant 35% so someone can, it's not as though the house is on 60 by 100 and it's so small, if we don't go to 33%, it's like a railroad flat. This is an 8,200 square foot house.
Yep. Understood.
Come in at 26.7.
Is it fair that I can use the full lot, the full land area in the calculations, which gives
No,
me the,
it's wetlands.
but it's not, it's not.
But
that-
why should your client be treated differently than anybody else? If we granted
No,
a
no,
vari-
that
hang
has-
on. If we granted a variance to other people, allowing them to use wetlands, which I don't think I've been on the board 15 years, 16 years. I don't think we do that.
So
But-
what you're asking the board to do is make an interpretation then of the subdivision and land development regs and what you feel is an inappropriate application of them by the zoning administrator who wrote the
Correct.
denial, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
That needs to be, they're not understanding because they're not used to the topic, that's what you're asking.
And so
You're-
that's the
he's-
question I'm trying to clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Bush is disagreeing with Dan Burgos's application of the subdivision and land development regulations in this case.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't you take an adjournment? Why don't you, take our advice to heart? Maybe you want to submit a letter to us so that we can consider it because you're making a novel application that we may have to make an interpretation, and it's difficult to do it on the fly, so to speak. Maybe Mary knows much more than I do. I say it seriously. And I'm not picking up the nuance that you're looking us to appreciate. I'm looking at the overall, as I think the rest of us are. An 8,200 square foot home at 35% is just not flying.
But I think more importantly, what Mr. Nicolia picked up pretty early on in this discussion is that either way, you're looking at 35.5 or 33.89. So I think the board is willing to let us consider 33.89, but they're saying that's still way too high
And I recognize that conversation.
without making an interpretation about whether zoning should apply to the subdivision and land development regulations or not. I don't think the board wants to get into that kind of discussion between zoning and engineering. Of course, that's up to them.
Can I just ask Deirdre a question? I know that Mr. Bush provided us with what his research found the first precedent. No. So am I correct in assuming that the 26.72% FAR is outside of the 500-foot radius that we use, or?
And I think that the
Mr. Bush, what's
26
the address of the 26.7?
Yeah, the address, and Deidre, this was in a direct conversation with yourself to review these applications, is in fact 88 The Helm.
88 Elm.
Yeah, it's CBA application 847-17.
Mr. Bush, I remember it. And as, again, my recollection, this is a very conforming area. It was built to be conforming. And the 26.7, I believe, the research shows a one-off. The rest, as I recall, every other home in that moorings area is a conforming.
There's a house immediate next, I'm not going to say immediately next door, but it's within that diagram. It's number 187, The Helm. And that's that one on the end trapezoidal area. If you look at the scale of that home and stuff on the land area, as we were just discussing, and I can provide a calculation.
Did we
I can-
grant the variance? That's all that we can consider.
I don't have record of that variance in front of me.
I
will find the variance for you.
I think we all need to do our research, but
The one you just brought up, 187.
Yeah.
I think you know.
So, Mr. Bush, would you like to take an adjournment?
Yes, I'd certainly like to take an adjournment. Thank you for your time.
Application's adjourned. Thank you.
We probably should, yeah.
I'm sorry, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on the application? I'm sorry.
No.
No? Okay.
I might, if record's still open, I do have record of neighboring properties, the neighbors, the direct neighbors that are in favor of support the application as proposed. There's 4 immediate neighbors which support the application.
Maybe you should bring that back with your adjournment, that way they can support
I
the new
will.
application.
I will. Thank you again.
88.
Did you hear that?
No.
88 The Helm is outside the 500-foot range. So, as I said before, this is one of the rare areas in Islip that is almost all conforming. And we know the area, so you have your work cut out for you.
I'm sorry, sir, did you want to speak on this application?
Joe Catalanato, 163 The Helm, East Islip, New York, 11730.
Can you just spell your last name, please?
Catalanotto. I'm the neighbor immediately to the east of Mr. and Mrs. Specchio, and I'm in favor of the project. Wait, maybe moot, but I'm in favor of the project.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the application? Okay, so the application is adjourned. Thank you. You're welcome. This one, Chris.
God. Application number 142-23, Phone Inc. Permission to leave retaining wall on property line not having required setback of 4.46 feet to erect 6-foot fence atop retaining wall, leaving combined height of 10.46 feet instead of permitted 6 feet, and on front property line through lot instead of required 15 feet. Business 1 District, northeast corner of Montauk Highway and Oak Neck Road, through lot to Madeline Place, West Islip.
Just for the record, given the fact that I've known the applicants for basically my entire life, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this, just in the interest of fairness.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, office at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I represent Tony and Baji Gaffrey in their request for variances for an existing 4.46-foot high retaining wall with a 6-foot high chain link fence on top of it. The wall and the fence are located on the property line which fronts Madeline Place at the back of their property. Their property fronts Montauk Highway as well. Again, Madeline Place faces the rear of the building. The wall and the fence were constructed in 1998 for a couple of reasons. One was for the security of the subject property, and also was done to eliminate the view of the dumpsters in the rear of the building from the neighbors on Madeline Place. The houses across the street on Madeline Place look directly into the back of this property.
Can I just
Yeah,
ask
absolutely.
you
Go
right
ahead.
there?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the photograph our chairman just showed us.
Yes,
And
that is it.
I don't think we've granted many 6-foot fences on top of 4-foot walls to make it 10 foot. Do you have any precedent of, that we've ever done that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. It's so far out from what we grant. I mean, you can make your application, but I think you may want to sharpen your pencil.
If I can, I just explain the history of it and why it's there and how it came to be there, if it helps. So back in 1998, the owners of the property had gotten in touch with the town because they had the existing conditions were that it was you had kind of like an overgrown grassy dirt area on the back of the property that was unsecured. And they had an inspector from the town come in, and they asked them what they can do to fix this problem, to help, to shield the property from the neighbors and help this retaining or this condition where the ground was unretained. His suggestion was to install a retaining wall and put up a fence, which was done. When they did that, the fence was only, was it 4 foot high? It was, they had done a 4-foot high fence, and the neighbors weren't happy with the look of that because they could see into the back of the property. You could see the dumpsters, and they decided that it would be best to raise the fence. So they spoke to the inspector again, and he thought it was a good idea, and they went ahead and did that. Unknowingly, they didn't realize that they needed to get a permit to do this work. So they built the wall, put the fence on top of it, and that's how we wound up with the situation that's there now. To go a little further ahead, we put in an application a few years back, quite a few years back, for a new Dunkin' Donuts going into that shopping center. And as part of the review from the planning board, they actually suggested that we put a 6-foot high wood look PVC fence on top of that wall. So it was actually a suggestion of the town for us to do that. And that's, although we don't have a precedent handy showing that a 6-foot fence has been put on top of a 4+ foot high wall, it was recommended by the town. And in part of their recommendation, they said we would have to come to the board and get a variance for it.
Deirdre, do you have anything to add on this?
Yes, the property itself is 4.5 feet higher than the grade at the street. And the parking lot is right there as well. So that's
the wall is absolutely needed in order to retain the ground on the subject property. Absolutely, yes.
I just don't know when I've last heard that we'll grant such a large variance based on plantings. I don't think we ever do. It's just that we would be permitting the erection of a 10-foot wall fence, and that's just not something I've never seen. What would happen if it was just compliant? What would be, it was
Plus two?
You would only have there really wouldn't be a fence on top of it. If it was compliant, then it could only be 6 feet total height. The wall is 4.5 feet.
So the
The wall
house
is only 4.5 feet. You'd have like a 2-foot high wall there. The people living behind there would look right at the back of the building, right at the dumpsters.
the houses on Madeline Place are those that are 2-story houses. I think there's a couple that probably have their living spaces upstairs.
Right.
So from the second story of the homes on the north side of Madeline Place, they would look right into the
Oh,
back
yeah,
of the
they're
shopping
yeah.
center.
It's
So there, I don't recall an instance where we did this to ease the transition between commercial and residential for a 6-foot fence on a wall, but I can think of 2 instances where the board did it at the planning board's suggestion for an 8-foot high wall. An 8-foot high fence. One of them is the Masonic Temple here in Islip, where there was not a chance to make any kind of transition between the business and the home to the south. And the other one was a car wash on the north service road of Sunrise Highway that had a through lot frontage, and the neighbors on the opposite side of that through lot were concerned about the visibility of the car wash. So both of those applications came to us after planning board review for whatever the respective permits they needed. And both of them were suggested that this board approve 8 foot instead of the maximum 6 in order to screen for the homes.
8-foot fence?
It was an 8-foot fence. In those cases, they didn't need to be on top of a retaining wall. In this case, there's really no choice because the retaining wall is there retaining the parking area. It's an old, tiny strip center that actually this board approved in 1975.
And to just to clarify what one of your concerns was, if we were to do this in accordance with the with zoning and set the fence back 15 feet, they would basically eliminate use of the rear of the property that is needed for parking, needed for the dumpster enclosure. So it would hinder the ability of the applicant to utilize their property, which has been being utilized like this for about 25 years. 25 years with this situation with the fence and the retaining wall. But the shopping center's been there since the 70s.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application?
Okay, there's somebody that has called our office twice from Madeline Place. She wanted to be sure of the fence materials.
Right.
I guess the same ones that she heard at the planning board.
Yes, absolutely. The planning board had recommended us using a wood look PVC fence with a lattice top, 6 foot high, and that is what we are planning on using.
How about if you built the 4 foot on top of 4 foot? So now we have 8 foot.
Let's say that again. I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
What happens if you built a 4-foot fence on top of the 4-foot retaining wall? And therefore, you'd have 8 feet rather than 10 feet.
That's how it was when it was originally built, and the neighbors didn't like that because they were able to look right into the back of the yard still. You'd still be able to see any trucks parked there, dumpsters. It's
So the commercial site is higher than the
the
residential?
commercial site is 4.5 feet higher than the residential. It is an unusual situation, I grant it.
What kind of plantings are they gonna have along the side?
I have the,
Are they going to have 10-foot plantings?
hold on, I'll tell you.
No, they're going to put the little dwarfed pines. And in 40 years, maybe.
There are going to be 3 new street trees along the road there. They're pin oaks are what's called out on the plan. And then behind the fence, on the inside in the property side is, let me see, 8-foot high yellow ribbon arborvitae.
Now, why don't they put something on the outside so the residents don't have to look at a wall and a fence? You have 3 trees there.
I'm sure my client would be, willing to do that if that's what the board would want.
I'm not. What do you think? You're fine?
Yeah, they're getting rid of this.
Can we what?
Make the plantings a condition.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So they're going to get planted at 8-foot high, the arborvitae?
The arborvitae would be 8 foot high. Now, the way it was approved by the planning board was that the arborvitae would be on the inside part of the fence, but
But still 2 foot would go over
be
the top.
above, would be over the top of the fencing, yes. And I think the whole reason they wanted the wood look PVC fence is because they wanted an attractive looking fence for the neighbors to see. rather
Sure.
than-
And how many plantings are going to be on the outside of the fence?
There's just going to be three pin oak street trees planted. along the
Pin
outside.
oak?
Pin oak, yes, PIN oak.
It's 100 foot of frontage, so they can't be too much closer.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
think
how-
they needed to be like around 30 feet on center or so.
And how tall are they going to be, or how high?
Well, they grow pretty tall. I don't.
No, when they're
it's like-
planted.
Oh, when
I
they
mean-
plant them, actually, did he give us a height? Hold on, let me just check.
Because what's the point of saying in 30 years? Yeah, they'll be.
We'll come back.
Yeah, we'll come back and look in 30 years.
Yeah, well, you know what, the spec for it is only that it's a 3.5 inch caliber tree at the time they plant them. I
Well, what
have
would
to
you-
imagine.
You're an
they do-
architect. What would you suggest?
I-
8 foot?
I would say it would probably be anywhere between 6 to 8 feet when they're first
So we
planted.
can make that as a
definitely.
condition.
Yeah, that's fine.
Got to be 8 feet. All right, I'm convinced. If you guys.
All right, so you want to make a motion on?
Yeah, sure.
Dan, do you have any questions? Okay.
Okay.
Is there anyone else would like to speak on the application? No? All right. So you want to make?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the application, provided that on the, as represented by the applicant's architect and representative, that on the interior of the fence, there are 8-foot arborvitaes planted, and on the exterior, there are 3 pin oaks at 8 feet. Not that they're going to be 8 feet in 20 years, but
They're 8
8
feet when they're
feet
planted.
when planted, and I will come by and measure them. I'm about
Sounds good.
6'3".
There you go.
Well, he's close to it.
So if you could go like this and it can't touch the top, we're good.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Yeah.
So the application is granted based on the conditions from Mr. Wexler.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good luck. We start to take this seriously. It's down.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, right, right.
Oops. I hate these microphones.
You're right.
Application number 143-23, Andrew and Marianne Cole. Permission to erect second-story addition 21.7 by 24.5, leaving second front yard of 8.2 feet instead of required 15 feet. Residence B District, northeast corner of Surf Avenue and Beach Boulevard, Islip.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you please state your name and address for this?
Gennaro Cozzolino, 2125 Deer Park Avenue, Deer Park, New York, 11729. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're requesting relief from the board to build a 24.5 by 22 feet second floor addition. The proposed addition requires a variance for secondary front yard. Requesting to build at 8.2 feet from permitted 15 feet, a difference of 6.8 feet. We are staying within the footprint of the existing first floor, not encroaching any further into the front yard. Proposed addition complies with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, will not affect any of the adjacent properties.
So you're looking to put a second floor over part of the house?
Correct, the footprint, first floor.
Mr. Cozzolino, right now, it's 8.2 instead of 15. Is
Yes.
that by grant?
I believe it's CO'd, yes.
Okay. Well, is it CO'd?
Yes.
Okay. And my question is, we are cognizant that it's got almost a 50% relaxation as it exists. So it's close to the property line, and now they want to double the height. We're always concerned, you've been here, about the neighbors. So what do we have for precedent that we have granted similar relief?
We're gonna have to ask Deidre.
So there's no precedent, and the precedent at 8.2 was granted for this house. And now they want to double it when it's that close to the property line. I think we could be going down a path of granting.
Well, it's a corner property, it's a little,
I know, but everybody's going to want the same thing. And how are we going to say no, everybody? And it's just, as I said, it's almost a 50% relaxation.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this application?
You want to reserve? Sure.
I take a motion?
I'll make a motion that we reserve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
The application's been reserved.
Thank you.
He's on the next two. Application number 144-23, Michael Virgilio. Permission to erect second-story addition, 8 by 44, roofed-over porch, 7.6 by 23, and roofed-over deck, 15.2 by 19.8, leaving side yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 39.76% instead of permitted 25%. Leave pool patio having side yard of 3 feet and rear yard of 4 feet instead of required 6 feet each, and driveway and walkways having side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet each. Residence B District, west side of Keith Lane, 300 feet south of Burling Lane, West Islip.
Good evening again. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we're requesting a relief from the board to build a second floor front dormer, a rear covered porch, and a front covered porch. Requesting to build with a side yard setback of 10 feet from permitted 14 feet, a difference of 4 feet. Variance for FAR requesting 39.76% from permitted 25%, a difference of 14.76%. I have consulted with Deidre regarding this application, and there was precedence of up to 36%, if I remember well. It was 36, I mean, okay, 34%. However, we would like to condition the roof over to never to be enclosed. Should this,
Is 34 one off, or what's the nature and character of the neighborhood?
There is a 30.5, 31.6, 31.8, 32%, and then 34%.
And how is that different from, how does that differ?
also a second-story addition to the proposal. I don't know what's in that would be. I think that would be just asking for not addition for the 46. And then the other half.
So that, the 34, the prior grant is less onerous than this.
I don't know their existing house but if they're almost the original porch, their so this is the second story.
Right. Did you hear that distinction?
Yes.
So we have the highest precedent of 34. That doesn't mean that's the nature and character of the neighborhood. But even that 34 was seeking much less relief. It was a roof over, as opposed to a whole second floor. I'm going to suggest that you ask for an adjournment and sharpen your pencil, because 39% is just not doable. 34, you may have problems because it's not apples to apples. So I suggest you adjourn and see how you can sharpen your pencil.
Well, the second floor addition is only, 7.5 feet by 23 feet.
Right,
This
but it
is
pushes the
dormer.
overall to almost 40%.
It's mostly that rear roof over that pushes us over the threshold.
Well, but the other part gets you to the threshold.
Yeah.
And it's pushing you over.
Over
that.
the threshold.
Yeah, it's all-
So it's,
Yeah.
you get what I'm
It all
saying?
counts.
Okay.
So would you like to take an adjournment on this? Could you please state your name and address for the stenographer?
I'm Michael Virgilio. I'm the homeowner. I've been in West Islip for all my life, and I graduated West Islip. And my family also all in West Islip. I've lived in the house since 2006. The additions that we're requesting has a front porch and the rear porch. So I think what we're trying to say is that even though we're doing the addition on the second floor, the neighbor who actually has the 34%, who's my neighbor as well, also has an addition as well. So they have a dormer that's existing there. So we don't have a dormer on our house, so it would potentially be this similar situation.
Is their dormer CO'd?
Yes, that their dormer is CO'd.
Probably,
Next
does it predate FAR? Is it possible that dormer was built in 1987 or earlier?
I mean, I can't speak on when it was, but I know that, it was granted for the porch. The other thing is I did get permission of all the neighbors to sign, which we have here, which I could show you, which is the left, the right, all across the street, and they understand what we're trying to do.
Mr. Virgilio,
Yeah.
we're trying to help you. We're trying to throw you a lifeline. 39.7 is not going to do it. This is not going to work. So what we're trying to suggest, well, we're not trying, we have suggested is, why don't you take an adjournment, have your representative meet with planning, Deidre, and see if you can't get something that's in the grantable range. This is not grantable.
Is there exceptions because in that area, the lot size is smaller? Because there's other houses that are in the area. I think this area.
Though, that's what we're talking about. The other lots, other houses in the area go up to, in one case, 34, there's a couple over 30. That's the exception.
Gotcha. It's tough to do, to sharpen the pencil. I think we tried. We worked, yeah.
For a while.
Do you know what the neighborhood would look like if we granted 39.7%? Everybody would build out.
Well, the only thing I would say to that would be that I definitely agree on that. But the exception to that would be that only in reference to the overhang of the roof, that, we would never be able to close that in. at
But
all.
it's all the other, the mass of the house that gets you to that striking range of 39.7. If we granted this in 10 years, you wouldn't want to live in that neighborhood. It looked like Queens. And I love Queens, not really, but it looked like Queens.
Yeah, I understand. that
And
they're
this is
not-
the suburbs. So we're trying to help you.
What's the percentage of the front and the rear of the house?
One of those to rear put us.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this application?
So are you questioning what percentage the porches add to the FAR?
Would the board
So the front porch
consider-
the front porch, as long as it meets the porch exception, if it's no more than 6 feet deep, shouldn't contribute to FAR. If you have it at 6 feet, over 6 feet, then it's contributing to FAR.
Yeah, I think
So
we're
that's
right.
one thing. You could reduce the porch to only a depth of 6 feet, and then the front porch wouldn't count in FAR. The rear porch is contributing 4% to the FAR, the roofed over patio or whatever it is in the back.
Yeah, we were matching the existing porch in the front. We were extending the same porch. So
Just putting an overhang. What happened is just weather. Weather freezes over, and I fell down the stairs. And from just being honest with you, we need something to protect from the front. We already have an existing.
Trim a foot, it looks like a foot off of it.
Is that what it is? 7 feet.
7'6".
In one corner it's 7, in another corner it's 7'6". So figure out, trim a foot off, and your life will get a lot easier, I promise you.
And that's on the front. Thank you. Appreciate
So would you like to take an adjournment and come back?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So do you think March 28th works, 4 weeks from tonight?
Yeah, that's sufficient.
So will you contact planning and let them know the changes that you're going to make?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so your application's adjourned. Thank you.
And please do the calculations on the, come with an exact FAR. It'll be easier,
Oh,
instead
sure.
of just chopping the foot off.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Who created this calendar? Application number 145-23, Frank Pareto. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Town Code Section 68-602, with apartment having gross floor area of 974 square feet instead of maximum permitted 800 square feet. To erect one-story addition, 14.5 by 23.5, leaving floor area ratio of 27.5% instead of permitted 25%. To leave roofed-over counter area having side yard of 3.3 feet instead of required 4 feet, rear yard landscaping of 38.7% instead of required 40%, and driveway having side yard of 1.3 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, south side of Kimberly Place, 318 feet east of Hickey Lane, West Islip.
And, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we're requesting permission to establish an accessory apartment of 974 square feet and not exceeding the 50% of the gross floor area. Requesting relief from the board to build a first floor rear sunroom, bring the FAR at 27.5% from permitted 25%, limits at 2.5%, permission to maintain rear yard permeable occupancy of 38.7% instead of permitted 40%, a difference of 1.3%. Permission to maintain accessory structures, roof over, bar area, barbecue in the rear yard with a side yard setback of 3.3 feet instead of required 4 feet, difference of 0.7 feet, and to leave existing driveway with a side yard of 1.3 feet instead of required 4 feet, difference of 2.7 feet. The proposed additions and existing structures will have no significant impact to the environment, not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will conform with the character and nature of the neighborhood.
Anybody have any questions?
We also have consent letters from the neighbors.
Yeah. No, the apartment size. Yes.
There was outline in 2 inches, but usually they were still 200, 2.1, 2.2.
So we don't have any precedent in the 500-foot.
Not in the area and not up to.
What do we have in the area that we can grant as far as precedent? Yeah, no, for the floor area of the apartment. So it's 800 or what? 800. No, go on.
Correct. There's already the second floor addition that was put on years ago. We just converted into accessory apartment.
So typically, the board has been more lenient if this apartment previously existed by virtue of a two-family, family use only approval to a previous owner. They do have that in this case. In 2018, the prior owner came before the board for permission to use the dwelling for two-family, family use only, which you granted for a period of 3 years. I checked the CO, and the prior owner never followed up and
Never
got the
followed
second
through,
kitchen on the CO. So changes the board's consideration about the prior legality of the property as a legal two-family dwelling. Or maybe not, maybe it doesn't change their consideration.
What does that mean?
Oh,
I thought you
gosh.
had it one way and then zig the other way.
They didn't follow up and get it on the CO.
Okay, so is that a good thing or a bad thing for us to consider? I thought you were leaning towards.
It's a good thing.
We
It was-
should, yeah.
it was
I thought you were
approved.
leaning that this is grantable, but then you made a hard right and it's not grantable. You want to reserve?
If they have a legal right, if the prior owner had the legal right to use this apartment for two-family, family use only, which has no size restrictions.
Right.
Then it's, I think the board's consideration is that it's it's unduly not cost-effective, double negative, to reduce the size of it
So
to
they
the
did-
next owner who wants to use that as an
Do they
accessory
fall in
apartment.
that category? Does this applicant fall in that category?
You're the lawyers here, but they didn't follow up and get the CO, so.
Yeah, but prior.
So if they,
Correct.
so if we, was it ever legal two-family?
We approved it.
All right. Right.
They just didn't do the last step.
Right. So if we approve this, would Jordan write, so we don't start granting 975 foot? Would you write that in the decision so we can distinguish it when tomorrow, next Tuesday, somebody wants the same thing? This was granted for a specific reason. Thank you.
Deirdre, you mentioned that we had granted one that seemed outside the range and it was 942 or something. It probably was a two-family, family use only before that.
Okay. Everything else seems de minimis.
Right. All right, is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this application? Any more questions? No? So we'll take a motion with the condition on it?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application for the reasons stated on the record, and additionally, the two-family, family use only for a period of 3 years.
The accessory apartment.
The accessory apartment for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the application is granted as amended.
Thank you. Good evening.
Why did somebody want 11.75 instead of 9 feet?
Application number 146-23, Anthony Vaccaro and Kathleen Lopergallo Vaccaro. Permission to erect dwelling leaving first floor elevation of 11.75 feet instead of permitted 9 feet. Residence A District, north side of Forest Avenue, 217.44 feet west of Edgewater Avenue, through lot to Featherbed Lane, Oakdale.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ms. Sarah, nice to see you again. I'm Kathleen Lopergallo Vaccaro. This is my husband, Anthony Vaccaro. This is our builder, Mr. Frank Vaccaro.
Yes, good evening, members of the board and Mr. Chairman. I'm Frank DiPaolo.
Please speak up.
We're having trouble with the
We're
microphone.
having a
tonight.
problem.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wonder if it's even on.
Frank DiPaolo, 678 Route 25A, Miller Place, New York. I'm here on behalf of the Vaccaros to answer any questions that the board may have regarding their request to increase the elevation of finished floor from 9.0, which is the town requirement, to 11.75.
First, why is it that you're looking for 11.75 versus the 9?
Because the Suffolk County mandated sanitary system for this area due to the high water table requires that the top of the retaining walls for the sanitary system be at 9.50, which is already starting off 0.50 higher than your finished floor elevation requirements. In order for Mr. and Mrs. Vaccaro's home to sit comfortably on the property and not have water problems, he needs to have the top of his foundation at least 12 inches above the 9.50. And then the entire floor system, including the floor beams, the shoes and plates, the 3/4 inch plywood plus the 3/4 inch oak floor, brings you about 14 inches higher than that.
What does engineering from the town, I mean, you say so it sits comfortably because of the water table. What does engineering say about the comfort level? I mean,
Well, I didn't mean comfortably, sir. I meant standard practice. If the grade of the sanitary system is at 9.50 and you need a pitch, do you have the survey there? No,
We do.
It doesn't have the survey.
so
All right,
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, this house can't be built, since it's new construction, it can't be built in compliance?
No, because, and I'm sorry that you guys don't have surveys.
We do,
We
but
have
it's-
surveys.
there's-
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of information put on an 11 by 17.
I
I
can't
am
even read
sorry
it.
about
I mean,
this.
it's so
Um,
small.
The bottom of the sanitary system, according to Suffolk County Health Department requirements, must be 3 feet above the highest recorded groundwater, which in this instance is 1.6. So the bottom of that sanitary system is already starting off at 4.6. Because of the new IA systems, they are requiring galley systems in there, which are 3 feet high. You have 6 inches of cover. That brings you roughly to about 6.0. Well, I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me. I'm sorry, 8.0. And then you need about 24 inches of dirt above that, and you need a pitch from the top of the retaining wall, which is going to be at 9.50. You have to pitch the dirt away from the house towards that 9.50 high retaining wall. So you got to give them at least, you have around 30 feet of ground space. They're going to need at least an 8-inch pitch of dirt. And then you're going to want the top of the foundation to be at least 6 inches above that. Otherwise, you could have snow problems infiltrating within the shoes and plates. And then you have a floor system, which is totaling of about 14 inches. So that brings them up to an estimated 11.75.
How big is this lot?
It's
880. There's two parcels. It's 80
Yes.
by 100.
It runs from street to street.
Is it about an acre? It's the area. right
No,
there.
it's 80 by 100, so it's 16,000 square feet.
I'm going to make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, just for now. There is so much, I can't even read it with a magnifying glass, and there's so much information, and it's a little beyond my ken. I'm going to ask that we maybe adjourn and hear from engineering on
Let's
this.
see.
Engineering has actually, yeah.
1 second.
And we already have health department approval on this.
Deirdre, do you have any comments on it, or?
The only elevation, physical elevation grant was at 9.5.
Which is across the street.
What is normally allowed. It's going to be a giant house.
Is it,
So I'm nervous about the house that's, the house.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
How far back is the house go? What is the house is?
It's in the middle of the lot.
Well, the house is set back, the house is
I mean, like, the house physically, is it over
100 feet. What, the house itself? No, it's approximately, I understand what you're saying about not being able to see it.
So it looks like from the garage, the end of the garage.
It's about 100 feet long.
Yeah, it's over
I'd
100
say
feet.
111 feet.
My expectation is a house that's over 100 feet, almost 3 feet over what's permitted. And those houses are obviously being raised, and someone was already here asking for a variance.
Yes.
Does that make it look like a giant house is connected in that?
Well-
We as the owners would prefer if the home was not that high. But that IA system is forcing us to put the house
Yeah.
that high.
The
We're
new
selling our
sanitary
home
system.
Because it has a staircase, and we're getting older.
What's-
And we wanted 111.
What's
So
the
now you
square,
Put the house way up in the air.
what's
Get rid of
the,
the IA system.
what's the square footage of the proposed house?
It's approximately 3,200
The
square
house
feet.
is like 20 something.
Is it one story?
One-story home, yes.
But for the property.
The only reason that Mr. and Mrs. Vaccaro are here is because of the county mandated sanitary system.
So, this makes it one story, but in the plan, it does show 8 feet of unfinished attic, right?
Yes, but that's only over the garage.
Small, like, little 1 foot that's comfortable in on this on property, it does look like a larger house. It's going to be like a house.
Well, the property is more narrow than the lot across the street, which was granted 9.9. He had enough room to spread his galleys further out. Excuse me? Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes. Yes, correct.
Maybe you
But
want
the
to
old-
consider lessening the height of the attic. I mean, that's one of the,
Well, we're not really speaking about roof height problems.
I know, but we're speaking about, like, you heard Deidre. You heard that it's going to be massive looking, it's going to be raised, and it's a high house. It'll ameliorate the mass effect by lowering the height of the roof. It's not, I mean, I'm not an architect, but it's
I'm
not
sorry, sir, but
complex.
I thought we were here because of the finished floor elevation height.
Right, and that impacts, well, I shouldn't use the word impact, that has an effect on the impact of the house, how high it is altogether. So having an 8-foot unfinished ceiling or roof line over the garage, that impacts the height. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard
The-
for me
the-
to see that, I'm
The concern
sorry.
here is the impact it has on the neighbors.
Yes.
The height, the height from the first floor, yes, but by adding that additional height on top of the garage, it increases the impact.
What is the maximum height of the home allowable? 35?
37 usually.
I think I'm like 27.
No, we're not saying that the house is tall, or too high. We're saying the cumulative effect of raising the first floor elevation and having that, the raised area, the cumulative effect,
What he's saying
it
is.
works against the need for an area variance on the first floor elevation.
If you reduce the pitch of the house, you could bring the pyramid down on the house. Even though you're bringing the elevation up, you're bringing the overall look of the house down. So it doesn't impede.
But is that what we need the variance for?
All right,
You need the variance for the first floor elevation. One thing we have to consider is the impact on the community, right?
and we can't blind ourselves on the practical effect. You're saying, oh, I only need this, but doing this height is going to make the house that much larger.
Right.
And
Well,
we
it's
can't
very-
blind, I mean, we're going around in circles.
No, no,
I
you're
think,
right, sir.
I think you understand, we're concerned about the mass effect of the raising and the house. And my suggestion is maybe you want to reduce the height of the roof to reduce that mass effect of the house.
So would the board be okay reducing the pitch of the roof to accommodate the increase in the finished floor level?
Well, that's like back of the envelope math. I don't feel comfortable just saying yes or no to that. What I'm suggesting is you may want to revise your plans consistent with everything we've been saying. And then with our chairman's consent, adjourn it and come back and we'll have something to, plus we'll have engineering determined.
I understand that, sir, but the application is for finished floor elevation, and now you're bringing in pyramid height.
No.
So I don't understand how would we approach another zoning board hearing on that?
Because the height that, the first floor elevation height you have now is ungrantable. What we're saying is if you reduce the overall height of the house in that area over the garage, it will make the house less of a visual impact or eyesore on the rest of the area. And something that we're very concerned about is mass and height and impact. By reducing the ceiling height over the, or the roof height over the garage and the pitch, however you want to say it,
The house right, I'm sorry, the house right across the street is taller than this.
they didn't seem to need, what is it?
Well, he went
12 or
29.
11 foot first floor elevation. The height isn't the problem. this is a mitigation effect that we're talking about. Because the first floor elevation is the problem. We're saying we'd be willing to consider if you reduce the overall height of the house to reduce the impact overall.
So he has to go through all of this, redraw the whole thing, and submit the exact same zoning board request that we
He
hear
doesn't
for
have to do
tonight.
anything. He could decide, and I'm just one
Oh,
person.
no, I'm saying, so he has to come back in front of the board again to ask for the same 11.75?
Well, the
Just by
problem is,
reducing the
the
height.
problem is, you know, like Mr. Wexler said, we're talking about back of the napkin math here. I don't want to commit to anything with, you know, without drawing it. But I mean, if you want to suggest something without drawing it out, then by all means, we'll listen.
Well, that's what I just had suggested, is that if we were required by the board, if the board granted an 11.75 finished floor height due to the county mandated septic systems, if we reduce the height of the garage by the 2.75 feet that we are asking for finished floor increase, would that suffice with the board?
I'm just one member of the board, but that would make me a little bit happier, a little bit more comfortable with the impact of having.
I think
Without,
all-
without the need for
Okay.
more drawings.
What's the height you have now?
I would have to pull the plans out in front of you to
If we could look at the
look
elevation
at what the
right
height
now.
is exactly.
Let's just look at the elevation real quickly, if you don't mind.
I can't see that, man.
So-
Step around it, please.
And
So-
feel free to write a letter to the town board saying that this is an insufficient space for this use.
So the area,
I want fish for dinner now. What do you have?
so when the board has granted increased elevation beneath the dwelling, they've given leniency in the cases where it's a one-story house. This is, you have to admit, this is a little bit of a different house in that it's 100 feet deep. So the massing is definitely something that the board has taken notice of, right? So you're saying that the 11.75 height that you need for the first floor elevation is because of the sanitary system. Now, that's to the left, as far away from the garage as possible, correct? It's in the back on Featherbed. It's on Featherbed, correct. So it's as far away from the garage. The garage is on Forest Avenue, the opposite side. So the area above the garage there, is that 1 story plus 8 foot for attic space? Because that looks like a first floor elevation above that garage higher than 11.75.
See your drawings.
Yeah. That's big.
That's the back. Discusses 23 above.
So, but if we say that, they say, right now they're doing it 20, you know, whatever, instead of just 11. So if you make it 21.
I just want to make sure, it's such a big house.
You have neighbor, don't leave them, 2 of them don't want to be read out loud, but we have some neighbor concerns.
All right, guys. All right, listen, it's getting way beyond. All right, now.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? Let's see if we have.
Does anybody wish to be heard? Okay. My suggestion is, it's a good advice. I'm a lawyer, and it's free advice. Go back, work on the plans, and we'll adjourn it, and you can re-present. That's the advice. We've gone around, we get it. What do you want to do? You want to adjourn it? We'll decide the case. We'll decide the case right now, but we're trying to help you. So, it's binary. Do you want us to decide the case now, or would you like time to take what we told you and give it a contemplative moment and come back? Which one?
I'm not really sure. That would have to be an answer.
Well, then we have to move on. We can't be here all night. No.
I know,
Which-
but when the
then-
board
then-
considers their answer, are they considering a mandate that was done by the county?
No, we've
We
been
have no
down
control.
that road,
Been
sir.
down that
I'm telling you, if nobody else wishes to be heard, then we'll close the record and we'll decide the case.
Unless you want to take an adjournment and come back
I don't know how many other ways we could say it. You want us to decide the case, or do you want an adjournment to resubmit? Don't tell us about the county rules. Don't tell us about the sewer system. Which one, sir? Which one? No, sir, please. A or B? A or B?
That's not my.
Okay, then, Mr.
It's not my
Chairman, can we
choice.
just adjourn it?
All right, so we'll
You're not
reserve
letting
decision.
me finish.
We'll reserve decision.
They're asking for an adjournment.
Okay.
Sir,
let-
again, would you like an adjournment or would you like us to reserve decision? We think, the suggestion is you take an adjournment. We're giving you two choices. You can either adjourn it or we can reserve our
I got an
decision.
idea. Adjourn. I got an idea.
On the time between now and the adjournment date, you can submit whatever you'd like. You can still submit whatever you'd like.
What you're
between
saying
now
is if they comply with the 9.0 elevation to finish first floor, they need no variances whatsoever. Is that correct?
We're not the zoning inspectors, but
Okay.
Mary,
Yeah,
that's
we
what
only
they-
know what we see. We don't know what we don't see.
right,
So
as long as it doesn't trigger any new variances, that's what it appears to be
Okay.
on its face. I don't know what they're gonna say in the zoning department when you come back, I would always, anytime you make a change, a substantial change to a plan, I would always run it by the zoning inspector, because you don't know if you're gonna trigger something new. And you know what I'm saying?
No, they have a way to inset the floor and raise the concrete on the outside in order to barrier off the sanitary
So
system.
you're
in
going to
the
take an
back.
adjournment?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so case adjourned. The application's been adjourned.
and I guess if you investigate that and you can withdraw, you would withdraw. Okay.
And you can submit anything you want between now and the adjournment.
I just have one question. The 9.0 doesn't apply to the retaining walls for the sanitary system, is that correct?
It's a first floor elevation, so unless there's a first floor in the sanitary system, I don't think so.
Okay.
Application number 147-23, John Sciato and Erica Nilsson. Permission to erect second-story addition 13 by 22, leaving side yard of 10.8 feet instead of required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 26.91% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, south side of Holly Drive, 355 feet east of Johnson Avenue, Sayville.
Hello, Denise Trefaro, DTT Design, 1165 Broadway Avenue, Holbrook, New York, 11741. Okay, so very simply, we're looking for permission to erect a second-story addition above their existing garage. So the 10.8 feet is existing there to the side of the garage as it stands now. We want to build directly up above that, which also results in an FAR of 26.91 versus the 25.
What is the precedent in the neighborhood?
Well, I'm not sure exactly the
Okay,
adjoining
then-
neighbors, but, I know,
Well-
26.91 isn't much over
Why
25.
don't we ask Deidre about the 10.8 instead of 14?
There's similar grants.
There you go.
1.8, 10.1, and 10.6.
Okay,
And they have, they are, 7.
sure. Okay, thank you. There you go.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this application? Please step up and state your name and address.
Can you address us, please?
Oh, sorry.
Please stand, speak into the microphone so the stenographer.
Peggy
can-
Lamana, 24 Holly Drive. I'm the neighbor. I was just
Can you spell your last name, please?
LA, capital MANNA.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was just wondering if they could explain what they were doing, because it was very brief and I don't understand it. So is there a way you could show me?
So like I said, they have an existing garage.
Yes.
And they're just going to build a room above the existing
So-
garage. So that same side of the garage, that's 10.8 feet already from the property line, is just going to go straight up.
Okay, great. So it has,
Okay, so that's the existing garage here. That's that same wall of the garage there, and it goes straight up.
okay, so it's really not affecting my side wall.
This is, I don't know where your side
The front, where the side door and the kitchen is.
Right, that would be going over the
That
garage.
way, okay, that was my question, okay, and I couldn't make it out of this, so I just wanted to come and find out. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody else like to be heard on this application? No. Take a motion. You see it? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, the application is granted. Thank you.
Okay, application number 148-23, Robert Truberg and Joy Hiller, permission to erect cabana over 500 square feet, leaving side yard and rear yard of 3 feet instead of required 10 feet each. Pool equipment having rear yard of 2 feet instead of required 6 feet. Pool patio on rear property line not having required setback of 6 feet. To leave hot tub having rear yard of 17 feet instead of required 18 feet. And having rear yard landscaping of 24.35% instead of required 40%. Residence AA District, south side of Grady Street, 200 feet west of Snedeker Avenue, Bayport.
Hello, do I restate my name again? It's okay? Okay.
Hi, Robert Truberg, 118 Grady Street, Bayport.
Okay, so we're asking for an amended zoning letter we have here that was done after the mailing was sent out. So how this one reads, I believe you should have a copy of this too. Permission to construct a one-story cabana over 400 square feet.
It didn't substantively change anything though, right? I mean, you,
Right, it changed because it said 500 square feet because they didn't realize that there was plumbing in it. So when there's plumbing in it, it's a 400-foot cutoff as opposed to 500-foot cutoff. So that cabana is still 500 square feet. Okay, it's not over the 500 square feet.
so the only other thing that's changing, if you look at our public notice, not the new denial,
Right,
because I think
yes.
it's stating mostly the same thing as the public notice already stated. The only thing you're asking to do is reflect that it'll now be under 500?
No, they said we had to word it this way now, permission to construct a one-story cabana over 400 square feet instead of under 500 square
But
feet.
isn't that reflected in the 3 instead of 10?
Yeah, it stayed 3 versus 10 instead of going down to the 3 instead of 4 that was suggested on the 500.
So by keeping it at 3 instead of 10, aren't we reflecting that it's over 400 square feet?
Yes. I don't know why they did this. I didn't write it. So, yes. And the other thing was that I realized when we were looking at this to leave the hot tub, it says 17 feet off the rear yard property line instead of required 18 feet. That's existing there. And from our calculations and going back through the survey, it should be 15.8 that we're requesting. That was like a scaling error, I believe, on the zoning department's, because that was not on the survey, that specific dimension. So we're saying to err on the side of caution, it should say 15.8 we're asking for instead of 17.
All right, so let's just address the cabana. Now, why is it that you can't comply on this? Why is it that location, et cetera?
Well, if you see on the survey, it's 100 foot deep, the survey. So there, it's a wider property than it is deep. So they really don't have much of a rear yard. This whole rear entertainment area is off to the left side kind of the house. The house is the front right, and this is going to be the back left corner. We did reduce that down to under the 500 foot square footage so that we thought we would be asking for 3 foot instead of 4, but once they realized the half bath was going to be in there, there was different wording that had to be put into that denial letter.
You're not considering relocating the cabana?
Well, the pool has already, that was under a separate permit, so the pool is there. The whole purpose of the cabana is to be by the pool. And as you can see from the layout of the yard, the house is on the other side of the pool. So there's no place else to put the cabana except in that corner.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this application? Please come forward. You guys are-
Hello.
Good evening.
How are you? My name is Courtney Keegans, 19 Aberdeen Road, Smithtown, New York, 11787. Which one? Keegans, Keagins. Okay. 64 Snedeker Avenue, which is the adjacent property, was my childhood home and will be my future home, which is why I'm advocating on its behalf. First, I would like to just bring something to the attention of the board. The two variances in the past that have already been given to this property are directly affecting the proposals being made. The first of which is that the front yard usually requires 50 feet, a minimum of 50 feet. 118 Grady Street has a current depth of 40 feet. The rear yard requires no less than 40 feet. Currently, it is at 25.5 feet. So the variances that have already been made have drastically shortened the distance from the main structure to our property line. Requesting this secondary structure that is even closer to our main building, which exceeds the required height, as well as its proximity to our property, is quite frankly an extreme encroachment on our residents. The variance allowing the 25-foot backyard has already massively compromised our privacy, and if approved, we feel very strongly that this would only add to us feeling extremely uncomfortable in our own backyard. We are wholeheartedly requesting the required 10 feet of the cabana from our property line. Second is,
I'm sorry, ma'am, which is your property looking at the overhead? Is it to the right or to the left? Yeah, sure, certainly.
So,
And,
So that the long, deep one
Yes.
is yours. Okay, okay.
and where, maybe Deidre with the arrow, where is the gazebo going to go? The cabana.
to our property.
So is it the cabana that you object to the most?
Correct.
And the other, the hot tub, and it's not as
I mean, the
problematic?
hot tub is a concern, but a larger concern is the pool equipment and the generator that is also requiring a shortened distance from our property line because they do create so much noise and they are very close in proximity to one another. So it's double the equipment very close to our property line, which would be next to the cabana. The cabana is also in violation of your height regulations. The height regulation of a secondary structure is 14 feet. Their proposed height is 18 feet 6 inches, plus an unknown height of a weather vane. They are naming this as a steeple, which according to your regulations really is only supposed to be for a church, which clearly this is not.
Is that in the call, the calendar, the height? I don't, maybe
No,
I'm
it's
missing it. It's not in the call, the calendar.
I have the elevation of the cabana. Do you need this?
I know what I'm saying is you're saying it's going to be 18 feet high, the cabana.
Yeah, when calculating.
It's not in call, the calendar, so it's not before us.
Oh, okay, I apologize. It's in the rendering.
Okay.
I believe that that's a permitted encroachment.
Yeah, the cupola.
Because it's decorative.
Yeah, yeah, a cupola is, I don't think anybody's going to be living in the cupola.
I mean, I'm glad
Maybe
that the board
pigeons.
was discussing the overall impact of the neighbors in the previous case, because as a whole,
this structure is not only tall and large, but very, very close to our property and is encroaching on our privacy. And quite frankly, the main residence already does that with this very shortened backyard of 25 feet.
The shortened backyard, oh, I see from the house.
Which is in the past, totally understand. But then to be making, quite frankly, gluttonous requests on top of that is very neighborly. And your regulations speak a lot back to, you know, the overall aesthetic of our town. And Bayport is known for, in my opinion, for four main points.
So if they built the cabana
Yes,
and it they could still build it as long as it complied. They'd
As
have
long
to
as
set
it's
it
set
back.
give us the 10 feet to our property,
the
please.
setback.
They're also going
because
to
they're
be
proposing
removing the privacy
Right.
hedge that lines up to our next door neighbor, which is on the corner there with the pool. It's noted that they will be removing an undisclosed amount of privacy hedge. And then also they want to increase the percentage of masonry in their backyard to be well over the required amount.
Well, we'll
So
take
we're
one-
now talking about removing trees, removing grass, adding structures, adding pools. And this sounds to me like more of an urban development than a suburban.
Maybe we can ask, unless you're not, are you finished?
I just want to make one last point. I've lived in Bayport all my life, and this, you know, not only goes back to the overall aesthetic of the community, but as I was saying, there's 4 reasons people live in Bayport: space, privacy, foliage, and quiet. And these requests violate
What about
all
the
of
water?
those things. The water?
Yeah.
Well, that's just a short drive down the road. But these requests really do violate all of those things. And, you know, I think that we would appreciate if we considered to not approve them.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Anyone else would like to be heard?
I live at 64 Santa Road, own the home. My name is Linda Clark. Very nice to meet you after this long evening. I just
You
want
got her
to say
name?
that, excuse me? I'm really extremely stressed out about all these variances that are trying to be put through, because it's very hard for you to imagine what it actually looks like in reality. The cabana is in the corner of our property right here. So it's 3 feet away. I could actually touch it with my arm. There's nothing I can put up. I have a 6-foot fence, and then our cabana is going to be right up against my property.
Is your property to the right of, which is your property?
Same piece.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, I didn't, okay.
I didn't do that.
Okay. Can I just interrupt 1 second? While it's on my mind, I can ask Mary or Deidre. Was there a variance granted to the applicant's house to build in the first oh, there was a variance.
There was a variance granted to put up the second story with a side yard.
Right.
The
So-
25 foot is all that's required in AA zoning, and 40 foot is required for the front yard, so I'm not sure. Yeah, 25 is not a lot.
Go back to the. Can you just go back to the microphone, please, so that they can get you?
So, okay. Yeah, right.
No, but they-
I would like to, when you're finished, I'd like to ask the applicant, why can't they comply?
But they have a whole side over here that has nothing on it. Why don't they just put it over there?
Well, that's what we'll ask.
And a generator, and then the hot tub, and then the pool, and then the pool equipment. All that is noise, noise, and noise. and it goes on 24 hours a day. We all know pool filters never turned off.
And that's one of the 4 reasons people move to Bayport, no noise, right?
No noise, it's true. And a lot of foliage, which that
So
won't
what-
exist. And this, if I go into my backyard, I can't believe I have to look at the, I can't even back up this cabana.
So why don't we ask the applicant why they can't
Okay.
comply?
Sure. I mean, this, I've been living there for 43 years. It's been a wonderful place for 43 years.
All right, anyone else besides the applicant that wishes to be heard at this time? Okay, would the applicant please come back up?
This, I've never heard.
It seems like you have the ability on the cabana to both move it closer to the pool, which would give you more distance to both fences, and to make it smaller, but it's pretty big. I think if you did both of those things together, you might be pretty close to the 10 feet.
Is that something you would consider?
Also, the pool equipment, I know has come up on this, but it actually is over 6 feet off the property.
That was a separate permit
That was
originally, I
a
guess.
permit by the pool company, and it is 6 feet off the property, over 6 feet. Sorry? That's a mistake. It's actually set at over 6 feet, 6'6". That's a mistake. I don't know where that came from, but the pool and the equipment came on a separate permit from Dunright Pools.
The survey says 2 feet.
And we have to go by the survey.
No,
That's-
understood. That's a mistake. I mean,
Well, then maybe we need a corrected survey.
Yeah.
We can't disregard the survey. That's the only
Understood.
document we have.
Yes, we don't have, I
Right.
don't have a survey with your pool on it.
Yeah,
The plot plan?
It's on the plot plan.
yeah, the plot plan, I'm sorry.
Because the-
Oh, the plot plan.
Okay,
The
that's the one
plot
I had
plan
in
is
here.
wrong.
It's taken from the survey.
Right. There was no pool on the survey. That was proposed at the time, that the house and the cabana would be. Since then, right, the pool company did the permit for the pool and the pool equipment separately.
Back to my other question, do you think it's possible to move the cabana closer to the pool and to make it a bit smaller?
Well, it's definitely possible.
It's definitely possible, yeah.
Could we ask for 6 feet off the property line?
Deirdre, what do we have for precedent?
I can ask for whatever I want.
Guys, please stop. Don't do that. Thank you.
Well, only question that we work closely with the tech for our decided.
We have no precedent.
And what was the required side yard setback there? 10? And was it both rear yard and side yards they needed, or just?
So
So you're asking for 2 large variances where you could easily move the cabana to make it comply.
Okay.
Okay. Do we
Do
come
you want
back
to take an
again, or
adjournment and
do we?
resubmit, or?
I would just, do you want the cabana to comply?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the rest of it,
And what about the landscape?
Yeah. The pavers are existing or they're proposed?
Around the pool, they're
Proposed
proposed.
around the pool.
The others.
What
are
about
there.
behind the house?
That's existing.
Those are existing? Okay.
Mary, I'm sorry.
You've got a large variance on the lot coverage in the backyard, so why can't you comply with that one as well?
Lot coverage? Right.
Yeah,
Well,
you're
I
asking
think
for
if we make the
24
cabana a little smaller, that will
Right, that'll give us more coverage.
more, less
I
coverage
don't
in
know,
the
that make
backyard
it
also.
15%.
Why can't you comply? It's a large enough piece of property to have the required landscape.
Well, in the back of the house, it's a short piece of property.
Yeah, but that's because you got a variance to build such a larger home.
I just bought that home.
Not
this year.
you.
Right.
You stand in the shoes. So when I say you stand in the shoes. So you build a larger home, your predecessor, you eat up a lot of space and then say, oh, I can't comply. Well, you asked for it, you got it. Maybe that's be careful what you wish for. So you can't ask for the variance and then say, oh, I want another one, because I don't have the room. It doesn't work that way. You gotta work with what you got. And this is what you asked for, not you, your predecessor. So I honestly, I see a problem with the lot coverage and the gazebo. The rest, I don't think is, it's de minimis.
Yeah, but if you get rid of the gazebo and cabana, whatever it is, lot coverage probably falls into line.
Well, if they can make it
Without
work, yeah.
having, without doing the math.
So, all right, the rest of the board feel that way, that the rest is grantable except for those two, as our chairman said, large variances. What do we do in the past? What have we granted on?
It's relatively new,
Right,
and I think that we've been granting 30%.
30%. Okay, so that's a nice round number. Yep. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to amend the call, or you?
I'll make the motion.
All right, does anybody else want to be heard after we amend the call? No?
Man, if you're
Ma'am,
going to
we'll-
speak, you gotta come up.
Yeah. What we're looking to do is deny the variances for the setbacks for the cabana, and therefore they would have to comply. The cabana would have to be set back 10 feet from any property line in order to be built. Okay? All right. Please.
Make a motion that we deny someone's the application with regard to the variance for the cabana, and deny the application as written for rear yard landscaping at 24.35 and granting us 30% instead of the required 40 and granting
What about the
Pool equipment?
Pool equipment?
Yeah, I think that was,
They said they're going to hold 6, so we can just either deny it or eliminate it, right?
we'll deny the pool
Pool
equipment.
equipment also to 6 feet.
Instead of gonna be at 6.
Right, correct.
Additionally, we'll deny the pool equipment and grant the amended application.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the amended application has been granted. Thank you.
Great job.
Yep.
Stay with us, because it's
Now,
not
Get another one.
another tricky one.
close at 9. Can't get fish. Don had it.
Came back for no response. Application number 149-23, Michael Hunter and Eleonora Giacconi. Permission to leave detached garage and attached roofed-over entry, 49 by 52 irregular, having rear yard of 5.3 feet instead of required 10 feet, height of 18.2 feet instead of permitted 14 feet, having gross floor area exceeding ground floor area of the dwelling by 759 square feet, and to leave driveway having rear yard of 2.1 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Broadway Avenue, 467.81 feet north of Terry Boulevard, Holbrook.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ralph L. Sasser for the applicants, Michael Hunter and Eleanor Giacconi. ELSASSER. You're very welcome. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this case had come before the board and was granted in January 7th of 2021. By the time the plans were approved for the garage, it was back in November of also 2021. The garage itself, the construction started in December. Ellie was the contractor on this, and the GC. Upon starting of the construction, they found out that the existing detached garage did not have any foundation walls or footing. And there's a little bit of history on this. This house was built in 1850, before that the subdivision was ever done on this. So the walls and the footing and the existing walls were infested with termites and water damage. So to go through the ending of this here, the contractor came, and when they put the footing down, it was actually off by 3 feet. Ellie answers the door that day. She's got an infant in one arm and a 2-year-old in the other, and she just basically let him do what he had to do because thinking that he had the plans and he knew what he was doing with it. There's also, at the same time, they are also applied to get an extension built on the house, which was on, and then an email was received from the town of Islip on 8/23/21 that they wanted to actually break the applications up and separate them. So that's why you've got Whitney even be talking about that number of the 759. Okay, it was 674 to begin with. Now it's at 85.2 as far as difference.
Can I just ask
Yes.
you, I'm looking at the pictures, I remember this. This was a long hearing. It was about a year or two ago. And I remember looking at it, and we went around and around, and it was stated in no uncertain terms they were going to keep the existing structures. And we were very definite, and they were very definite they would. And then they tore them down. What is the good of making representations?
Mr. Malta was here at the hearing. The representation is this here. When you have a garage that was water damaged and termite infested and no foundation, what choice do you have? Just
Well,
leave it
then you
like
come
that?
back to the board, or you go to the town. You just don't tear it down and say, voila, it's over. That's not fair to
You were at that
us.
hearing?
That's not fair to the, no, wait, sir.
You want to testify, sir, please
Yeah, you-
come over here.
Don't.
State your name and
look over-
address.
yeah,
I
exactly.
apologize, Mr. Chair.
That's okay.
But the thing was this here, this was during the COVID period. This was a Zoom hearing.
I remember it. I'm saying
You do
is,
remember it. Okay.
If they, I'm telling you, I remember the photographs. I remember that they were going to keep it. We're going to keep it over and over and over again. And then, oh, well, we're not going to keep it. There's no obligation to come back and seek something from us or from the town. Just say, I changed my mind. That's not fair to us. We wouldn't do that to you. So I'm not quite sure what the rationale or justification is to say, oh, water and termites, just like that. Okay. Then everybody could say that. We were very specific. We could order the minutes. We were very specific about, and you were specific about keeping it.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes, sir.
He believed we have the minutes here.
Yes.
And he doesn't seem to recall the fact that you couldn't take anything down. So,
Okay.
you know, I can't attest to it. I wasn't at that hearing.
Right.
so-
I'm all right. Listen, if you have the minutes, I'll certainly be corrected. But
And I got the decision here also, Mr. Wexler.
Well, the decision is clear.
let me see the decision. Let me see. Hang on.
What's that? Yeah, he's give it to him. The what?
Where is it?
This is a decision,
Yes, sir.
not the minutes.
I must say, this has grown quite a bit.
Where is it? Yeah.
It's funny how buildings have a tendency to do that, when they come down and go back up.
You know what the irony of this whole thing is? They wanted to extend on the house prior to even the garage. And the plans are still sitting in the building department, so. I don't know if you got a copy of that survey showing the proposals basically for what the house, the additions to the home.
Because they were going to alter the garage.
It's actually, sir, it's like 18 and 2.5 inches we measured. So I'm being honest with you, that's what it is.
Right. Now I have the decision. Now I was just going over with Mary, and yeah, it's clear where the decision says that structure to erect addition and alter garage. Doesn't say tear it down, alter it. And then when you look at page 3, it goes into detail about it's an existing garage and it couldn't comply. We were very specific and it couldn't comply. Therefore, we understood the problems and will allow it to remain. And they just tore it down. I think there's a problem here.
Well, the problem is, as far as I see, what you had said to me before, anybody could say it's damaged, it's water damage, or it is.
Yeah, and it wasn't water damage when they last appeared.
It was water in terms, they had no idea how bad the situation was with it. You couldn't keep the structure standing.
Yeah, but you have a duty to go to the town and come back to us and say there was a problem. You just can't get a decision and go off on your merry way and do what you feel is appropriate unilaterally. Now, it's not you. I'm not blaming you. It's not your fault. You're doing a
No, I'm
yeoman-like.
not, there's no finger pointing. There's nothing.
No, you're doing a yeoman-like job here, but you just can't do that and say, oh, it's termites. There you go. I like that.
Well,
without any, even an engineering report.
I'd also like to, could I have these submitted also to the record anyway for, this is the neighbor that the new garage basically affects is right behind her. And also the neighbor right to the north of her, which is right next door. And basically they were quite aware, I'm sure, of also the condition that this garage was basically in. And I don't think the fact that with all these termites and so forth, that the neighbor, especially the one in the back that wrote that beautiful letter, she would appreciate the fact that it's not there anymore.
I still think you get an engineering report, you do something. We have nothing now other than what is now unreviewable. And that's not on us, unfortunately. But the decision is specific that that would remain. Anyway.
Is anyone else would like to be heard on this application?
Mr. Wexler, I'm sorry, Chairman.
Yes.
Just keep in mind, there's another property. If there is a problem with the size of it and so forth, at 1396 Broadway.
How is it related to this application?
How is it?
Same
I'm saying
owners?
if there was a problem, the different owners. But I'm saying as far as if there's a problem with the size of it or the height of it or anything like that, there is one that's right across. Actually, it's right. I think it's similar, but if you see the size of this thing.
I think that was discussed at that was brought up at the last hearing.
I just found it on my research before coming here. That's all.
No, I'm saying, I remember there was a house across the street and we took that into consideration. But that's a far piece from what we grant and what an applicant chooses to do.
2 houses to the north. I'm sorry. I apologize. It is a long driveway and it's a huge garage. Because the way this exceeds the square footage of the main house is because the building department wanted us to split the applications, house and garage. So, they're going to be.
But they haven't been.
They will be, but it was their idea to split the applications up
Let
because,
me ask you a question. When the additions are added, would that eliminate the variance?
oh, yeah,
Of,
the 759, yes.
But you haven't filed yet.
Well, they're still reviewing the plans, but I can show you basically what the addition's going to look like on the
We know what it's going to look like because it was the subject of our last application,
Yeah,
but I understand what building is saying. They can't CO this garage for you because you haven't filed yet for the additions to the main house, right?
Don't.
We have filed for
We-
the addition.
we did.
Edward Bolter, 700 Lakeland Avenue, Suite 2A is Apple.
Mhm.
The applications for the house are with Tanner and Engineering. Tanner and Engineering had a bunch of comments on the site plan, which we have revised and provided him with all the information that he needs for the addition on the house. The addition on the house was approved by the prior grant in 2021
Right,
in concept, in concession with the garage.
right. That's
As
why
the-
that variance wasn't considered by the board the first time, because you were asking for the additions to the dwelling.
Correct.
Correct.
And at the advisement of the building department, they had to separate the applications, make the garage stand on its own and the house stand on its own. So we're still waiting for hear back from Tanner on the revisions made to the
Because
plot plan.
otherwise that 759 wouldn't even be an issue at this point. So
To be honest with you, that is kind of like the least of your problems here. I'll be honest with you. At least from my perspective. I'm only one of five, so.
Who's Holbrook?
Yeah, 20%. Who's Holbrook? Is that
Is there any more questions for the applicant?
Ed? Ed, are you Holbrook?
I am Holbrook.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
I'm sorry?
may I have the homeowners speak?
Yes, if she would like to speak, please state your name and address.
Eleanor Giacone Hunter. I do want to say that I was home on maternity leave in December of 2021 when construction started. And I kind of picked up off where plans were approved. And I had a newborn and my 1-year-old at the time. And when they told me there was an issue with the garage, they couldn't do the extension, I kind of said, you guys are the pros, you're the experts, do whatever you have to do to make it right and make it look like the approved plans. If that was knocking down the wall, knocking down the structure to make it structurally sound I don't speak construction lingo, which is why we hired who we hired. I wanted them to do the right thing. And so my heart kind of sank when I found out that because it was completely knocked down, we had to go what we're going through again. So it was wholeheartedly an honest mistake.
The problem is
They-
also
they
not
didn't-
only,
I understand, I completely
not only did they tear it down,
understand.
they built it larger.
They didn't build it in compliance with the plans.
Well, it came up 3 feet forward, which we later found out that it was poured 3 feet.
Right, but I understand, nobody's blaming
Yeah.
you. You weren't out there pouring the cement with the wheelbarrow.
I
But
wasn't, but I
wait.
was the homeowner
I
that was
get it,
in
but-
charge and
But
getting the
that
knocks on the
doesn't
door.
relieve our duty that they exceeded what we granted.
Yeah, I know we're putting a lot on you. I just want you to know that it wasn't like,
No, we don't think you
hey,
did this
you know,
purposely.
it wasn't like a ha-ha gotcha kind of thing. It just was, okay, make it look like the approved plans and what the picture was. In my husband's absence while he was at work, I was home, so
But what
I
is the purpose of having a board where we grant the variance and we're
Sure.
very specific, and then it gets built larger, then what's the point of even? And if your next door neighbor, we granted something, and then they made it much larger, now you say, well, it's right on my property line. Oh, it was the contractor. You wouldn't go for it.
I completely,
So we're not blaming you.
yeah, no,
trust me.
I completely I
No,
get
no.
that
You look
part.
like a very honest.
I appreciate that. That's why I wanted to kind of tell you guys I was kind of a little bored when I realized that we weren't supposed to.
So in 2003, 20 years ago, the town board adopted a change in the code that reduced the maximum height of accessory structures from 18 feet to 14 feet. This board, in those 20 years, has very rarely varied the 14-foot maximum, and almost never for new construction. So you came before the board and you had a substantial size structure that was 18 feet in height, and you asked to basically double it and hold that same 18-foot. The board reserved decision because there were board members that didn't want to grant it. And the board thought about it carefully and weighed it out and felt like, well, they have the existing 18 feet. Arguments were made that we can't do it without holding that 18 feet. And so that's why they're so surprised. They don't ever go above 14 feet for new construction in 20 years since the code amendment.
I could attest to that. Okay.
Yeah, here we are.
But this predated, I guess, because the fact it was 18 foot prior to.
And that was your best argument, and that was the argument that got you approved to maintain it. And then it's not there anymore, so it's new construction, so.
I now understand that part of exactly what you are all saying. But when they had said, there's damage and this and that. That's what I told him. I said, make it look like the approved plans, do what it is that you have to do.
But they didn't.
Well, they did.
It was more expensive for us to do it the way it was, which I,
We understand the
not-
issue. We understand it. It's not blaming you. Your
Yeah.
representative did a very good job. I mean, he brought up the points.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this application?
Yeah,
I think so too. Just had to ask.
Yes, everyone-
All right, I'll take a motion.
I'd make a motion that we deny the application.
I'm sorry. You can do it.
All right, all in favor of denying the application?
Aye.
All right, I'm sorry, your application's been denied.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Mary, I'm so aware we could. Yeah. 18 feet.
Okay, Lee, we're cut. Oh, no, we're not cut. We're not cutting it. We don't, we didn't cut yet, right? No, we have cases to read in. Oh, we can go. Hey, everybody. I know it goes on.
Can we do this?
Okay. Yes, ready? So these are all 2022 cases, so we
Wait,
can.
do we have to do with the accessory renewal?
Yes, how many renewals do we have?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah. You know what?
Motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all granted.
Okay, and then we have 5 cases from 2022. So these will all be 3-0 considerations. Application number 674-22, Anthony and Lauren DeMayo. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 28, 2023, the application is granted. On motion of,
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
carried by a vote of 3-0, Messrs. Retaliata and McCabe not voting on the basis of not having been board members at the time of the public hearing. Application number 752-22, 983 Smithtown Avenue LLC. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 28, 2023, the application is granted with the proviso that the space be used for recreation and/or storage space and not as additional sleeping space. On motion of
Second. All in favor? Aye. Granted.
application number 692-22, 105 Diamond Court. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 28, 2023, the application is denied. On motion of
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
application number 882-22, Andrew Albate. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 28, 2023, the application is denied as to the 1-story addition and granted as to the 2 sheds. On motion of
Second. All in favor?
application number 846-22, Luce Archimedes Galeas. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated February 28, 2023, the application is denied. On motion of
Motion. Second. All in favor?
thank you. That's a wrap.